Ethan Brooks stood in the shadows of the opulent penthouse, his heart pounding as he saw Claire Donovan, the powerful CEO, kneeling on the floor, clutching her chest, gasping for breath. Her face was pale, her lips trembling. This wasn't the first time he'd witnessed this. But tonight was different. Tonight she was on the verge of completely ceasing to breathe. And he, the night shift cleaner, was the only one who could save her. Please like and comment with the city you're viewing in to let me know how far this story has progressed. The fluorescent lights of the downtown office tower buzzed overhead as Ethan Brooks pushed his cleaning cart through the marble lobby. It was 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, and the building had that hollow emptiness that came after everyone important had gone home. His rubber-soled shoes squeaked against the polished floor, the sound echoing up into the vaulted ceiling like a lonely whisper. He was tired. The kind of tired that settled into your bones after working 12-hour shifts, then going home to make breakfast for a 6-year-old who still asked why mommy wasn't coming back. Maya had stopped asking as much lately, which somehow felt worse. Ethan jabbed the elevator button for the penthouse level with more force than necessary. The doors slid open with a soft chime, and he wheeled his cart inside, catching his reflection in the mirrored walls. 32 years old, but the bags under his eyes added another 5. His brown hair needed a cut. His uniform, navy blue with prestige cleaning services stitched across the chest, hung loose on his frame. He'd lost weight since Sarah died. Grief had a way of stealing your appetite along with everything else. The elevator climbed smoothly, floor numbers ticking past in glowing digits. Ethan pulled out his phone and checked the time. If he finished the penthouse by 1:30 a.m., he could grab 3 hours of sleep before Maya's alarm went off. 3 hours. It would have to be enough. The elevator chimed again at the 42nd floor. The top. The doors opened directly into the private vestibule of Claire Donovan's penthouse. Ethan had been cleaning this place 3 nights a week for the past 8 months, and he still wasn't used to the sheer excess of it all. The vestibule alone was bigger than his apartment's living room, with its slate floors and that ridiculous modern art sculpture that looked like twisted metal, but probably cost more than his annual salary. He unlocked the front door with his master key and pushed inside, immediately hit by the sharp scent of mint. It was always mint up here. Air fresheners, candles, those little oil diffusers she had scattered around. At first he'd thought it was just a preference. Some people liked lavender, some liked vanilla. Claire Donovan apparently liked mint. But after a few weeks, he'd started to notice it was excessive, almost aggressive, like she was trying to cover something up. The penthouse was dark except for the ambient city lights filtering through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The skyline stretched out in all directions, a glittering sprawl of glass and steel and ambition. Ethan flipped on a single lamp in the entryway. He'd learned early on that Claire got irritated if he turned on too many lights while she was home. Something about disrupting her sleep. He started his routine in the kitchen, a massive open-concept space with white marble countertops and appliances that looked like they belonged in a spaceship. The sink held a single wine glass with a dark ring of red at the bottom. He washed it carefully, dried it, put it back in the cabinet. The trash was nearly empty, just some takeout containers and a crumpled tissue. Claire didn't cook. In 8 months, he'd never once seen evidence that she'd used the 6-burner gas range or the double oven. As he wiped down the counters, he noticed the window above the sink was open. Again. It was November, and the temperature had dropped into the 40s, but the window was cranked open wide enough to let in a steady stream of cold air. He frowned. This was the 3rd time this week. He moved into the living room, running the vacuum quietly over the plush area rug. The coffee table held a neat stack of financial magazines and a laptop that was probably worth more than his car. Everything in its place. Everything controlled. Except for the throw blanket on the couch, which was bunched up like someone had been lying there, and the faint smell underneath the mint, something stale and burnt that he couldn't quite place. Ethan checked his watch. 12:15 a.m. He still had the bathroom, the bedroom, and the home office to tackle. He grabbed his supplies and headed down the hallway, his footsteps muffled by the thick carpet runner. That's when he heard it. A cough. Wet and ragged, coming from behind the closed bedroom door. He froze. Claire was home. She was usually asleep by now, or at least quiet enough that he could pretend she wasn't there. The cough came again, followed by a muffled curse. Ethan hesitated, then knocked softly. "Ms. Donovan? It's Ethan. Just checking if you need anything before I clean the bedroom. Silence. Then her voice, strained but controlled. I'm fine. Skip the bedroom tonight. You sure? I can come back later. I said I'm fine. Sharper this time. He backed away from the door, an uneasy feeling settling in his gut. That cough didn't sound fine. It sounded like something was wrong, something deeper than a cold. But she was his boss, technically. He cleaned her house, cashed his paycheck, and that was supposed to be the end of it. Getting involved in her personal life wasn't part of the job description. Ethan turned and headed to the home office instead, a smaller room at the end of the hall lined with built-in bookshelves and dominated by a massive mahogany desk. He dusted the shelves, wiped down the desk, emptied the small wastebasket beside it. That's when he saw them. At the bottom of the trash can, underneath some crumpled papers and an empty energy drink can, were at least a dozen used pieces of nicotine gum. The packages were there too. Ultra strong, 4 milligrams. He stared at them for a long moment, pieces clicking together in his head. The mint smell, the open windows, the air purifiers running constantly in every room. Claire Donovan was trying to quit smoking. Or maybe she was still smoking and trying to hide it. Ethan's chest tightened. He dumped the trash into his larger bag and tried to push the observation out of his mind. It wasn't his business. People smoked. People quit. People relapsed. None of that had anything to do with him, except it did, in a way that made his hands shake slightly as he put a new liner in the trash can. Sarah had smoked for 15 years before it killed her. Started in college, couldn't quit, even when she got pregnant with Maya. She'd tried everything, patches, gum, hypnosis, that prescription medication that gave her nightmares. Nothing stuck. And then one day she started coughing blood, and 6 months later she was gone. Lung cancer, stage 4, inoperable. She was 29 years old. Ethan finished the office and moved to the guest bathroom, scrubbing the sink with more force than necessary. He could still hear that cough echoing from the bedroom. Wet, persistent, wrong. He finished cleaning at 1:20 a.m., 10 minutes ahead of schedule. As he packed up his cart in the entryway, he noticed the light was still on under Claire's bedroom door. He could hear movement inside, footsteps, the sound of a drawer opening and closing. He should leave, clock out, go home, get his 3 hours of sleep. Instead, he found himself walking back down the hallway. He knocked again, gentler this time. Ms. Donovan? What? Her voice was muffled, irritated. Are you okay? That cough sounds pretty bad. A pause. Then the door opened a crack, and Claire Donovan looked out at him with eyes that were bloodshot and exhausted. She was still in her work clothes, a white blouse and gray slacks, though the blouse was wrinkled and the top 2 buttons were undone. Her dark hair, usually pulled back in a perfect bun, hung loose around her shoulders. I'm fine, she said, but her voice cracked on the second word, and she had to turn away to cough into her elbow. It went on for nearly 10 seconds, her whole body shaking with the force of it. When she turned back, there was something raw in her expression, something that looked almost like fear. It's just a cold, she said. That's not a cold. Her eyes flashed. I don't pay you to diagnose me. No, Ethan said quietly. You pay me to clean your house, which I do. 3 nights a week, for 8 months. And I've noticed some things. Claire's jaw tightened. What things? The windows are always open, even when it's freezing. You've got air purifiers in every room. The whole place smells like a mint factory. And I just emptied your office trash. There's enough nicotine gum in there to choke a horse. She stared at him, her face going pale. You're going through my trash? I'm emptying your trash. There's a difference. He paused. Are you smoking? That's none of your business. You're right. It's not. Ethan shifted his weight, trying to find the right words. But my wife died from lung cancer 2 years ago. She was a smoker, started coughing just like that about 6 months before they found the tumor. By then it was too late to do anything about it. Claire's expression shifted, something flickering across her face. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Finally, she said, I'm sorry about your wife. I appreciate that, but I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you because that cough, it's not normal. And if you're still smoking, or if you just quit, your lungs are probably in rough shape. You should see a doctor. I have seen a doctor, Claire said, her voice sharp again. Multiple doctors. They all say the same thing. Quit smoking, give it time, my lungs will recover. I'm doing that. So you can save your concern for someone who actually needs it. She started to close the door, but Ethan put his hand out to stop it. When did you quit? 3 weeks ago. Happy? How long did you smoke? Claire's eyes narrowed. This conversation is over. How long? 12 years. The words burst out of her like she couldn't hold them back anymore. 12 years, okay? I started in business school when I was pulling all-nighters and needed something to keep me sharp. And then I just never stopped. Not when I graduated, not when I started my company, not when every doctor I saw told me I was destroying my lungs. Because I didn't have time to quit. I had a company to run, investors to impress, a board breathing down my neck every quarter. So I smoked, and I hit it, and I told myself I'd quit later. And now it's later. And I'm trying, and it's not working fast enough. Is that what you wanted to hear? Ethan stared at her. In 8 months of cleaning this penthouse, he'd never heard Claire Donovan raise her voice. She was always controlled, always composed, even in the middle of the night when he'd catch glimpses of her working at her laptop or pacing the living room on a phone call. This raw anger was something else entirely. I wanted to hear the truth, he said quietly. Claire laughed, but there was no humor in it. The truth? You want the truth? The truth is I'm scared out of my mind. I quit 3 weeks ago, cold turkey, and I feel like I'm dying. I can't sleep, I can't focus, and I can't breathe without coughing up half a lung. But I can't let anyone at work know, because if the board finds out their CEO has been lying about smoking for 12 years, they'll use it as ammunition to push me out. So I hide it. I chew nicotine gum until my jaw aches. I run air purifiers 24/7. I spray mint-scented everything until my apartment smells like a damn candy store. And I lie to everyone who asks if I'm okay. Because that's what I have to do. She was breathing hard now, her chest heaving. And then the cough came again, worse than before. She doubled over, one hand braced against the door frame, the other pressed to her chest. It went on, each bark sounding more painful than the last. Ethan reached out instinctively, putting a hand on her shoulder. You need to sit down. She shook her head, still coughing, and tried to pull away. But her legs buckled slightly, and he caught her arm, steadying her. Come on, he said, guiding her back into the bedroom. Just sit for a minute. The bedroom was as immaculate as the rest of the penthouse. King-sized bed with white linens, minimalist furniture, another set of those massive windows overlooking the city. But the nightstand told a different story. There were 2 empty water glasses, a bottle of cough syrup, a box of throat lozenges, and a crumpled tissue box. Claire sank onto the edge of the bed, still coughing, but less violently now. Ethan grabbed one of the water glasses and went to the attached bathroom, filling it from the sink. When he came back, she was bent forward, elbows on her knees, trying to catch her breath. Here, he said, handing her the glass. She took it without looking at him and drank half of it in one go. The coughing finally subsided, leaving her pale and shaking. Thank you, she said after a long moment. Her voice was hoarse. Ethan sat down on the other end of the bed, maintaining a careful distance. How bad is it? Really? Claire closed her eyes. I don't know. The doctors say my lungs are inflamed from years of smoking, but there's no cancer, no permanent damage yet. They say if I stay quit, I should recover, but it doesn't feel like recovering. It feels like I'm suffocating. Withdrawal? Probably, combined with the inflammation. They gave me an inhaler, but it barely helps. She looked down at the water glass in her hands. I thought quitting would make me feel better, but I feel worse than I did when I was smoking. It takes time, Ethan said. Sarah went through the same thing when she tried to quit. The first month was hell. She said it felt like her body was punishing her for doing the right thing. But she eventually felt better? Ethan hesitated. She relapsed before she got to that point. Lit up a cigarette in a gas station parking lot after 3 weeks clean. Said she couldn't take it anymore. Claire's face fell. That's not exactly encouraging. No, Ethan admitted, but Sarah didn't have what you have. What's that? A reason to be scared. He met her eyes. She didn't get diagnosed until it was too late. She didn't know what smoking was doing to her until the damage was done. You still have a chance to walk away from this without permanent harm. That's something. Claire was quiet for a long moment, turning the water glass in her hands. "I've been smoking since I was 18, she said finally. "It was the one thing that was mine, you know? The one thing I could control when everything else felt out of control. Starting my company, dealing with investors who didn't take me seriously because I was too young or too female, fighting with my board every quarter. I could smoke a cigarette and feel like I had 5 minutes of peace. And now I don't even have that. I just have this." She gestured vaguely at herself. At the rumpled clothes, the exhausted face, the body that wouldn't stop betraying her. "You have your life," Ethan said. "That's not nothing. It doesn't feel like much right now." He understood that. In the months after Sarah died, he'd felt the same way. Like his life was just going through the motions, an empty routine of work and childcare and grief. It was Maya who pulled him through, who gave him something to wake up for every morning. But Claire didn't have that. From what he could tell, she didn't have anyone. "Do you have people?" he asked. "Family? Friends?" Claire shook her head. "Not really. My parents passed away when I was in college. Car accident. I have a brother, but we don't talk. And friends..." She laughed bitterly. "I don't really do friends. I have colleagues, business associates, people I network with, but no one I'd call at 2 in the morning and tell them I'm struggling." "What about a partner?" "I was engaged once. He left when he realized I cared more about my company than about planning a wedding." She looked at Ethan. "What about you? You mentioned your daughter earlier. How old is she?" 6. Her name's Maya. "Is she why you work nights?" Ethan nodded. "Daycare's expensive, and my sister can only watch her during the day. Night shifts pay a little better, and it means I'm home when Maya wakes up. We have breakfast together before she goes to school." "That sounds nice," Claire said, and there was something wistful in her voice. "It is. Most days." He paused. "She still asks about her mom sometimes. I don't know what to tell her." "The truth, probably. The truth is her mom chose cigarettes over her own life. I'm not sure a 6-year-old needs to hear that." Claire flinched. "That's not fair. Addiction isn't a choice." "No," Ethan agreed. "But keeping smoking after you know what it's doing to you, that's a choice." Sarah knew. She'd seen her own father die of emphysema, but she kept lighting up anyway, and now Maya doesn't have a mother, and I don't have a wife, and all of it could have been prevented if Sarah had just stopped. He hadn't meant to say all that. It came out harder than he intended, edged with anger he usually kept buried. Claire was looking at him with something like understanding in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she said. "For what it's worth, I'm trying. I really am trying not to be that person." "I know you are." Ethan stood up. "But trying isn't enough if you're doing it alone. You need support. Therapy, a support group, something. Because this..." He gestured at the bedroom, at the evidence of her private struggle. "This isn't sustainable. You're going to crack eventually." "I don't crack," Claire said, but there was no conviction in it. "Everyone cracks. The question is whether you have someone there to help you when it happens." He headed for the door, then stopped and turned back. "I'm here 3 nights a week. If you need someone to talk to, someone who's not going to judge you or use it against you, I'm here." Claire looked surprised. "Why would you do that?" "Because I couldn't help Sarah. But maybe I can help you." He shrugged. "And because you're paying me to clean your house, so I might as well make myself useful in other ways too." A small smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. "That's a weird job description." "I'm a weird guy." Ethan pulled out his phone and checked the time. 1:47 a.m. "I should go. Try to get some sleep." "Yeah, you too." He left the bedroom and headed back down the hallway, his cleaning cart waiting for him in the entryway. As he pushed it toward the elevator, he heard Claire's door close softly behind him. The elevator ride down felt longer than usual. Ethan leaned against the mirrored wall, exhaustion washing over him. He just crossed about 15 professional boundaries in the span of 20 minutes. His supervisor would probably fire him if she found out he'd spent half an hour in the client's bedroom having a heart-to-heart about addiction and grief. But he couldn't bring himself to regret it. The lobby was empty when he exited the elevator. He signed out with the night security guard and pushed his cart toward the service entrance. The November air hit him like a slap when he stepped outside, cold and sharp. His breath puffed out in visible clouds as he loaded his supplies into the trunk of his beat-up Honda Civic. The drive home took 30 minutes through empty streets. His apartment was in a neighborhood that was trying hard to be up and coming, but mostly just looked tired. He parked in the lot behind his building and climbed 3 flights of stairs to his unit. Inside, his sister Jessica was asleep on the couch, the TV playing some late-night infomercial on mute. Ethan turned it off and gently shook her shoulder. "Jess, I'm home." She blinked awake, sitting up and rubbing her eyes. "Hey, Maya went down around 8, no problems." "Thanks for staying." "No problem." Jessica grabbed her purse and jacket from the coffee table. "You look like hell, by the way." "Love you too." She smiled, but there was concern in her eyes. "Seriously, E, are you sleeping at all?" "Enough." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I've got." He walked her to the door. "I'll see you tomorrow?" "Yeah, same time." Jessica paused on the threshold. "You know you can't keep doing this forever, right? Working all night, taking care of Maya all day. You're going to burn out." "I'm fine." "Everyone says that right before they're not fine." She squeezed his arm. "Just think about it, okay? Maybe look into some day shifts or—" "Good night, Jess." She sighed but didn't push it. "Night, E." After she left, Ethan locked the door and stood in his quiet apartment for a long moment. The place was small, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that was more of a hallway with appliances. But it was clean, and it was his, and it was home. He checked on Maya first, cracking open her bedroom door. She was sprawled across her twin bed, one arm hanging off the edge, her favorite stuffed rabbit clutched in the other hand. Her nightlight cast soft shadows across the walls, which were covered in her crayon drawings, mostly flowers and suns and a stick figure family that still included 3 people. Ethan pulled the blanket up over her shoulders and kissed her forehead. She stirred slightly but didn't wake. In his own bedroom, he peeled off his work uniform and collapsed onto the bed without bothering to shower. He'd do that in the morning, after Maya's bus picked her up and before he crashed for a few hours of real sleep. He set his alarm for 6:30 a.m., 3 hours from now. 3 hours to rest before doing it all over again. But as he lay there in the dark, he couldn't stop thinking about Claire Donovan, about the fear in her eyes when she talked about her lungs, about the loneliness of fighting an addiction with no one to lean on, about how easily she could become another Sarah, another brilliant woman cut down by a habit she couldn't break. He'd meant what he said. He wanted to help her. Needed to, maybe, in a way that was more about his own unresolved grief than about her. But good intentions didn't always lead to good outcomes. Sarah had taught him that. Ethan closed his eyes and tried to sleep. The alarm went off at 6:30 a.m., pulling him from a dream he couldn't quite remember. He dragged himself out of bed and into the shower, letting the hot water beat some life back into him. By 7 a.m., he had breakfast ready. Scrambled eggs and toast for Maya, coffee strong enough to strip paint for himself. She came stumbling out of her room in her pajamas, hair sticking up in every direction. "Morning, baby girl," Ethan said, scooping her up for a hug. "Morning, Daddy." She yawned against his shoulder. "Can I have chocolate milk?" "After you eat your eggs." She made a face but climbed into her chair at the small kitchen table. Ethan sat across from her with his coffee, watching as she pushed the eggs around her plate. "How was school yesterday?" he asked. "Good. We learned about pilgrims." "Yeah? What did you learn?" "They came on a boat, and they ate turkey." She took a tiny bite of toast. "Mrs. Patterson says we're going to make paper turkeys next week. That sounds fun. Can Mommy see my turkey when I make it?" The question hit him in the chest like it always did. Maya had been 4 when Sarah died, old enough to remember, but young enough that the memories were already fading. She didn't ask about her mom as much as she used to, but when she did, it was always sudden and piercing. "Mommy can't see it, sweetheart," Ethan said gently. "Remember, she's in heaven now." "I know, but can we take a picture and show her? Like, hold it up to the sky?" His throat tightened. "Yeah, baby, we can do that." Maya seemed satisfied with this answer and went back to her eggs. Ethan drank his coffee and tried to shake the heaviness in his chest. After breakfast, he helped Maya get dressed and brushed her hair into 2 lopsided pigtails. The school bus came at 7:45 a.m., and he walked her down to the street corner to wait for it. "Love you, Daddy," she said when the bus pulled up. "Love you more," he called as she climbed the steps. He waited until the bus pulled away, then trudged back up to the apartment. He had until 3 p.m. when Maya got home. That meant he could sleep until noon, do some laundry, maybe grab groceries if he had the energy. But first, he needed to call his supervisor. He pulled out his phone and dialed the number for Prestige Cleaning Services. It rang 3 times before a brusque voice answered. Prestige, this is Donna. Hey, Donna, it's Ethan Brooks. Ethan, what's up? You're not calling out, are you? Because I've got 2 people out sick and I can't afford. I'm not calling out. I just had a question about one of my clients. A pause. Which one? Claire Donovan, the penthouse on West 47th. What about her? Ethan hesitated, choosing his words carefully. Has she ever complained about my work? Or asked for a different cleaner? No? Why? Did something happen? No, nothing like that. I talked to her last night and I wanted to make sure I wasn't overstepping. Donna sighed. What did you talk about? She wasn't feeling well. I asked if she needed anything. That's fine. That's good customer service, actually. But don't make a habit of it, okay? We're there to clean, not to chat. Keep it professional. Got it. Good. Anything else? No, that's all. He hung up and stared at his phone for a moment. Keep it professional. Right. Like last night had been professional in any sense of the word, but he couldn't regret it. Something about Claire's situation had gotten under his skin, and he couldn't just walk away and pretend he hadn't seen what he'd seen. Over the next 2 weeks, Ethan's routine continued as usual. He worked his night shifts, cleaned Claire's penthouse 3 times a week, and spent his days with Maya. But something had shifted. Claire started leaving her bedroom door open when he arrived. Not all the way, just cracked enough that he could hear if she was awake. And she was awake more often than not, usually working at her laptop in bed or sitting by the window with a book. They didn't talk much at first, just a greeting when he arrived, a quiet good night when he left. But gradually, the conversations grew longer. How's Maya? Claire asked one night as he was dusting her bookshelves. Good. She made a paper turkey at school. Very proud of it. That's sweet. Does she know what you do for work? She knows I clean offices. I don't think she really understands what that means yet. Does she ask about her mother? Ethan paused, his hand stilling on the shelf. Sometimes. Less than she used to. I don't know if that's good or bad. Probably both, Claire said. She was sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket despite the air purifier humming in the corner. Kids are resilient. She'll be okay. Yeah. He moved to the next shelf. How are you doing? With the quitting, I mean. Claire pulled the blanket tighter. Some days are better than others. Today was bad. I almost bought a pack of cigarettes on my way home from work. But you didn't. No, I called my therapist instead. She talked me down. Ethan looked at her, surprised. You're seeing a therapist? Started last week. You were right. I needed support. Trying to do this alone was stupid. She smiled faintly. Don't let it go to your head. Wouldn't dream of it. He finished the dusting and moved his cart toward the hallway. I'm proud of you for calling instead of buying the cigarettes. Claire looked taken aback. You are? Yeah, that's hard. Choosing the hard thing when the easy thing is right there. That takes guts. She didn't say anything, but something shifted in her expression, something softer, more vulnerable. As the weeks passed, their late-night conversations became a strange kind of ritual. Ethan would clean and Claire would talk about work stress, board meetings, the relentless pressure of running a company at 30 years old, about her parents, who she still missed 12 years after their death, about her engagement that fell apart because she couldn't figure out how to let someone in. And Ethan found himself talking too, about Sarah, about the guilt he still carried for not pushing her harder to quit, about the loneliness of single parenthood, the fear that he was failing Maya somehow, about his own dreams that had gotten shelved when life got complicated. He'd wanted to be a teacher once, before student loans and medical bills made that impossible. It was strange, this intimacy forged in the quiet hours between midnight and dawn. They existed in different worlds. Her penthouse and his 3-flight walk-up, her corner office and his cleaning cart. But somehow, in those moments, none of that mattered. One night, about 3 weeks after their first real conversation, Ethan arrived to find all the lights on and Claire pacing the living room. Her hair was disheveled, her white blouse half untucked from her slacks. She looked like she'd been crying. What happened? He asked, setting down his cleaning supplies. Board meeting, she said, her voice tight. They're questioning my leadership, saying I've been distracted, that my performance has slipped. They're talking about bringing in a co-CEO to support me, which is corporate speak for pushing me out. Can they do that? If enough of them vote for it, yeah. She ran her hands through her hair. I built this company from nothing. I pitched it to 50 investors before anyone took me seriously. I worked 80-hour weeks for 5 years to get us profitable. And now they want to replace me because I've been having an off quarter. Is it because of the smoking? Do they know? No. They don't know about that, but I think they can tell something's wrong. I'm not as sharp as I used to be. The withdrawal, the insomnia, the constant coughing, it's affecting everything. And I can't tell them why because if they find out I've been lying about smoking for 12 years, it'll just make everything worse. She sank onto the couch, her head in her hands. I don't know what to do. Ethan sat down beside her, close enough to offer comfort, but not so close it felt invasive. What do you want to do? I want to fight. I want to prove them wrong. But I'm so tired, Ethan. I'm tired of fighting, tired of hiding, tired of pretending I have everything under control when I barely have anything under control. Then stop pretending. She looked up at him. What? Stop pretending. Tell them the truth. Not about the smoking, necessarily, but about the fact that you're human, that you've been dealing with some health stuff and you're working through it. Most people will respect honesty more than they respect perfection. You don't know my board. They don't do respect, they do results. Then give them results. Show them you're still the person who built this company, but do it on your terms, not theirs. Claire stared at him for a long moment. When did you get so wise? I'm not wise. I'm just a guy who's made a lot of mistakes and learned a few things along the way. She smiled, a real smile this time, not the tight, controlled one she usually wore. Thanks for listening. Anytime. They sat there in silence for a while, the city lights glittering beyond the windows. Finally, Claire said, Do you ever wonder what your life would have looked like if things had gone differently? If Sarah hadn't gotten sick, if you'd become a teacher like you wanted? All the time, Ethan admitted. But wondering doesn't change anything. You can only work with what you've got. What I've got is a mess. Yeah, but it's your mess. And you're doing something about it. That counts for something. Claire leaned back against the couch, closing her eyes. I hope you're right. Ethan stood up and grabbed his cart. I should let you get some rest. You've got a company to save tomorrow. Yeah. She opened her eyes. Ethan? Yeah? Thank you for everything. I don't think I say that enough. You don't have to thank me. I know, but I want to. He nodded and headed for the door. As he waited for the elevator, he heard her cough again, softer this time, but still there, still a reminder of how fragile everything was. The pattern continued. Some nights were good. Claire would tell him about small victories at work, about how she'd made it another day without smoking, about the progress she was making in therapy. Other nights were hard, nights when the cravings were so bad she could barely think straight, when the board's pressure felt insurmountable, when she wondered if any of it was worth the fight. Ethan showed up every shift, cleaned the penthouse, and listened. He didn't have answers. He didn't have solutions. But he had presence, and sometimes that was enough. The night everything changed started like any other Tuesday. Ethan clocked in at 11:45 p.m., rode the elevator up to the 42nd floor, and let himself into Claire's penthouse with his master key. The mint smell hit him immediately, stronger than usual, and he noticed the living room window was wide open despite the temperature having dropped into the 30s. He found Claire in her home office, sitting at her desk with her laptop open and her phone pressed to her ear. She looked worse than he'd seen her in weeks. Her face was pale and drawn, dark circles shadowing her eyes. She was wearing the same gray suit she'd had on during their conversation 2 nights ago, which meant she probably hadn't been home long enough to change. I understand your concerns, Richard, she was saying, her voice tight and controlled, but I need you to trust that I have this under control. The quarterly projections will be ready by Friday, and they're going to exceed expectations. I guarantee it. She listened for a moment, her jaw clenching. No, I don't think we need to schedule another emergency board meeting. We just had one last week, and nothing has changed since then except your level of anxiety. Ethan quietly backed out of the office and started his cleaning routine in the kitchen. He could still hear Claire's voice carrying down the hallway, growing more strained with each passing minute. That's not fair, and you know it. My leadership hasn't wavered. I've been with this company since day one, and I've delivered results every single quarter for the past 7 years. One rough patch doesn't erase that track record. A pause. Then, sharper, I am not being defensive. I'm being realistic. And if you can't see the difference, then maybe you're the one who needs to take a step back and reassess. Ethan heard the sound of her phone hitting the desk, followed by a string of curses. He winced and kept cleaning, giving her space to decompress. 20 minutes later, she appeared in the kitchen doorway. She'd taken off her suit jacket and her blouse was wrinkled and half untucked. Her hands were shaking slightly. "That sounded rough," Ethan said, wiping down the last of the counters. Claire laughed, but it came out harsh and bitter. "That was Richard Chen, the chairman of my board. He's been gunning for me since the day I refused to give him a seat on the executive committee. And now he's using my performance issues as ammunition to convince the other board members that I'm not fit to lead." "What performance issues?" "I missed a deadline last week, one deadline for a report that wasn't even critical, but Richard's spinning it like I'm incompetent, like I'm losing my edge." She ran her hands through her hair, messing up the already disheveled strands. "And the worst part is, he's not entirely wrong. I am losing my edge. The withdrawal, the insomnia, the constant cravings, it's all catching up with me. I can't focus like I used to. I can't think as clearly. Everything takes twice as long because my brain feels like it's wading through mud." "How long has it been since you quit?" 5 weeks. She leaned against the doorframe, looking exhausted. 5 weeks without a single cigarette, and I feel worse now than I did when I was smoking a pack a day. How is that possible? Your body's still adjusting. Sarah said it took her about 3 months before she started feeling normal again. Well, before she relapsed. But 3 months was the timeline her doctor gave her. Claire closed her eyes. "I don't know if I can make it 3 months. Not with Richard breathing down my neck and the board questioning every decision I make. I need to be sharp. I need to be on top of my game, and right now, I'm barely functional." Ethan set down his cleaning supplies and looked at her carefully. "Have you eaten today?" She blinked, the question clearly catching her off guard. "What?" "Food. Have you eaten anything today?" I don't know. I had coffee this morning. Maybe some crackers at lunch?" "That's not enough. No wonder you feel like garbage." He opened her refrigerator, which contained the usual sparse collection of takeout containers and bottled water. "You've got nothing in here. When's the last time you had a real meal?" "I don't have time for real meals. You need to make time. Your body's trying to recover from 12 years of damage, and you're running it on fumes." He grabbed his phone and pulled up a delivery app. "What do you like? Chinese? Italian? There's a good Thai place that delivers until 2 a.m. Claire stared at him. "You're ordering me food?" "Unless you want to keep feeling like you're dying, yeah. Pick something." She hesitated, then said, "Thai is fine. Whatever you think is good." Ethan placed the order, pad Thai, spring rolls, and tom yum soup, and set his phone on the counter. "It'll be here in 30 minutes. You should sit down before you fall down." "I'm fine." "Claire, sit." Something in his tone must have gotten through to her because she actually listened. She walked over to the couch and sank down onto it, pulling the throw blanket around her shoulders. Ethan finished cleaning the kitchen, then moved into the living room. He dusted the bookshelves while Claire sat in silence, staring out at the city lights. "Can I ask you something?" she said after a while. "Sure." "Why are you doing this? I mean, really, you've gone way beyond what anyone would expect from a cleaning service. You listen to me complain, you order me food, you give me advice. You don't have to do any of that." Ethan paused, thinking about how to answer. "I told you before. I couldn't help Sarah. She didn't want help, or maybe she wanted it but didn't know how to accept it. Either way, I watched her destroy herself and I couldn't do anything about it. And then she died, and I had to live with the fact that I'd failed her." "That's not your fault." "Maybe not, but it feels like it was. Every day it feels like I should have tried harder, pushed more, made her see what she was doing to herself, to us, to Maya." He set down his dust cloth and turned to face her. "So when I see someone else going through the same thing, someone who actually wants to quit, who's trying despite how hard it is, I can't just walk away. Not this time." Claire's eyes were glistening. "I'm not your second chance, Ethan. You can't fix me to make up for not fixing her." "I know that. This isn't about fixing anyone. It's about showing up, being present. That's all I'm trying to do." She looked away, blinking rapidly. "I don't deserve this. You barely know me." "I know enough. I know you're fighting like hell to save yourself, even when it would be easier to give up. That's worth showing up for." Before Claire could respond, the buzzer sounded. Ethan went to the intercom and confirmed the delivery, then rode the elevator down to the lobby to meet the driver. When he came back up with the food, Claire was still on the couch, but she'd wiped her eyes and pulled herself together somewhat. He unpacked the containers on the coffee table and handed her a fork. Eat, all of it. I'm not leaving until you do. Claire looked at the pad thai, and for a moment he thought she might refuse. But then her stomach growled audibly, and she picked up the fork. They ate in silence. Ethan had ordered extra so he could eat with her, figuring she'd be more likely to finish her food if she wasn't eating alone. The soup was good, spicy and sour and warming. He watched as Claire worked her way through the noodles, her movements mechanical at first, but gradually becoming more natural. "This is good," she said after a few minutes. "Told you." I forgot what actual food tastes like. Everything's tasted like cardboard since I quit smoking. That'll come back. Your taste buds are healing. Claire took another bite, chewing slowly. My therapist says I use work as a coping mechanism, that I throw myself into the company so I don't have to deal with anything else in my life. She's probably right. Probably. You're supposed to disagree with me. Why? She's your therapist. She's supposed to call you on your stuff. Ethan sipped his soup. What else does she say? That I have control issues, that I'm terrified of appearing weak or vulnerable because I've spent my entire adult life fighting to be taken seriously in a male-dominated industry, that I equate asking for help with failure. Claire set down her fork. She says a lot of things that are uncomfortable to hear. Good therapists usually do. Do you see a therapist? Ethan shook his head. Can't afford it. I looked into it after Sarah died, but the sessions were $200 each and my insurance didn't cover mental health. So I just dealt with it on my own. That's not healthy. No, but it's reality. Not everyone has the luxury of professional help. Claire was quiet for a moment. I could help with that. Pay for sessions, I mean, if you wanted. That's not necessary. I know it's not necessary, but I want to. You've done so much for me, and I'd like to do something for you. Ethan met her eyes. I appreciate the offer, but I'm okay. Really. Maya keeps me grounded, and talking to you these past few weeks has actually helped more than I expected. It has? Yeah. Turns out listening to someone else's problems is a good distraction from my own. Claire smiled, and it reached her eyes this time. Glad I could be useful. They finished eating, and Ethan cleaned up the containers while Claire retreated to her bedroom to change into something more comfortable. When she came back out, she was wearing sweatpants and an oversized t-shirt that said Stanford Business School across the front. It was the most casual he'd ever seen her. Better? He asked. Much. She settled back onto the couch. Are you going to finish cleaning, or are you officially off the clock now? I'm never off the clock, but I can multitask. He grabbed his vacuum and started working on the living room rug. Tell me about your company. What does it actually do? I've been cleaning this place for months and I still don't really know. We're a fintech startup. We develop software that helps small businesses manage their finances. Accounting, payroll, tax prep, all of it integrated into one platform. The goal is to make financial management accessible to people who can't afford to hire a full accounting team. That sounds useful. It is. Or it was, before the big players started muscling in on our territory. Now we're competing with companies that have 50 times our budget and 100 times our resources. She sighed. Richard and the board want me to sell. They think we can't win against the competition, so we should take an acquisition offer while we still can. But I don't want to sell. This company is mine. I built it. And I'm not ready to give it up just because things got hard. Then don't. It's not that simple. Sure it is. You're the CEO. You have the final say. Not if the board votes to remove me. And if I keep fighting them, that's exactly what they'll do. She pulled the blanket tighter around herself. I'm trapped. If I sell, I lose everything I've worked for. If I don't sell, I lose my position, and they'll bring in someone else who will sell anyway. Either way, I lose. Ethan turned off the vacuum and sat down on the armchair across from her. What if there's a third option? What third option? Find new investors, ones who believe in your vision and will back you against the current board. Or restructure the company so the board has less power. There has to be something you can do besides just accepting defeat. Claire looked at him like he'd suggested something impossible. That would take months, maybe years, and I don't have that kind of time. Why not? Because Richard's calling for a vote in 3 weeks. 3 weeks to prove I can turn things around, or I'm out. Then prove it. How? I can barely function right now. I'm exhausted all the time. I can't sleep. I can't concentrate. The withdrawal is killing me, and I have no idea when it's going to get better. So tell them. Claire stared at him. Tell them what? Tell the board what's going on. Not the smoking part, necessarily, but tell them you've been dealing with a health issue, that you're in treatment, and that you need time to recover. Most people will understand that. Richard won't. Richard doesn't matter. What matters is whether the other board members trust you enough to give you a chance. Do they? She thought about it. Some of them, maybe. There's Margaret Wu. She's been with me since the beginning, and David Park voted against the emergency meeting last week. But the others, I don't know. They're investors first. They care about returns, not loyalty. Then show them the returns. Whatever you need to do to prove you're still the best person to lead this company, do it. Work with your therapist to manage the withdrawal symptoms. Delegate some of your responsibilities so you're not carrying everything alone. But don't give up, not when you've come this far. Claire's eyes were wet again, but she was smiling. When did you become a motivational speaker? I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos at 3 a.m. when I can't sleep. Some of it must have stuck. She laughed, and the sound was genuine. Thank you, Ethan. I mean it. I don't know what I would have done these past few weeks without you. Probably the same thing you're doing now. You're stronger than you think. I don't feel strong. Nobody does when they're in the middle of the fight. But you will. On the other side of this, you're going to look back and realize you survived something that should have broken you, and that's going to make you unstoppable. Claire wiped her eyes. I hope you're right. I'm always right. Ask my 6-year-old daughter. She smiled and pulled the blanket up to her chin, looking smaller and more vulnerable than he'd ever seen her. Will you stay for a bit? I don't really want to be alone right now. Ethan checked his watch. It was 1:30 a.m., and he still had 2 other buildings to clean before his shift ended at 6. But looking at Claire, at the exhaustion and fear written across her face, he knew he couldn't leave. Yeah, he said, I can stay. They talked for another hour, about nothing and everything. Claire told him about her parents, about the car accident that killed them when she was 20, about how she'd used their life insurance money to fund her first startup, which failed spectacularly within 6 months, about meeting her ex-fiancé at a networking event and thinking maybe, just maybe, she could have both a career and a relationship, about the slow realization that she wasn't built for traditional relationships, that she needed her independence more than she needed partnership. Ethan told her about his own college dreams, about the scholarship to state school that got him halfway through a teaching degree before Sarah got pregnant and everything changed, about the strange mix of joy and terror that came with holding Maya for the first time, knowing his life would never be his own again, about the guilt of sometimes resenting Sarah for getting sick, for leaving him alone with a 4-year-old and a mountain of medical debt. I'm a terrible person for thinking that, he said. She didn't choose to get cancer. She didn't want to die. You're not terrible. You're human. It's okay to be angry at someone and still love them. I keep waiting for the anger to go away, but it's been 2 years and it's still there. Maybe it doesn't go away. Maybe you just learn to live with it. Ethan looked at her. Is that what you're doing? Learning to live with all the stuff you're carrying? I'm trying. Some days are better than others. She yawned, covering her mouth with her hand. Sorry, I'm exhausted. You should sleep. I will, after you leave. I can leave now if you want. No, not yet. She curled up on the couch, the blanket wrapped around her like armor. Tell me about Maya. What's she like? So Ethan told her. About Maya's obsession with dinosaurs, about how she insisted on wearing the same purple shirt 3 days in a row because it was her lucky shirt. About the way she still couldn't pronounce her R's properly, so library came out as Libwawi, and birthday was birthday. About the fierce hugs she gave him every morning before school, like she was trying to squeeze all her love into one moment. By the time he finished talking, Claire's eyes were closed and her breathing had evened out. She'd fallen asleep on the couch, one hand tucked under her cheek. Ethan stood up quietly and grabbed the throw blanket from the back of the armchair, draping it over her. She stirred slightly, but didn't wake. He should finish his cleaning. He should leave and get to his next building before his supervisor called, wondering where he was. But instead he sat back down in the armchair and watched Claire sleep, making sure her breathing stayed steady and even. It was 3 a.m. when he finally left the penthouse. He'd completely skipped the other two buildings on his route, which meant he'd have to explain the missed assignments to Donna in the morning. But right now, sitting in his car in the empty parking garage, he couldn't bring himself to care. His phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. "Everything okay? You usually text when you're done with work." He typed back, "Long night. I'm fine. See you in a few hours." The drive home was quiet. The streets were empty except for the occasional cab or delivery truck. Ethan's mind was still back in that penthouse, still seeing the exhaustion on Claire's face, still hearing the fear in her voice when she talked about losing her company. He'd meant what he said. She was stronger than she knew. But strength didn't mean you couldn't break. Sarah had been strong too, right up until she wasn't. When he got home, Jessica was asleep on the couch again. He woke her gently and sent her on her way, then collapsed into his own bed without bothering to change out of his uniform. He dreamed about Sarah. They were in the hospital in those final days before she died. She was thin and pale, hooked up to machines that beeped and hummed. But in the dream, she wasn't sad. She was angry. "You can't save everyone, Ethan," she said, her voice weak but sharp. "You couldn't save me. Don't destroy yourself trying to save her." "I'm not trying to save her. I'm just trying to help." "It's the same thing, and it's going to break you." He woke up at 6:30 a.m. with Sarah's words still echoing in his head. The dream felt like a warning, but he didn't know what to do with it. The next few weeks fell into a new rhythm. Ethan showed up for his shifts at Claire's penthouse, and they talked while he cleaned. Sometimes the conversations were light, favorite movies, childhood memories, silly stories about work. Other times they were heavy. Claire's ongoing battle with the board, Ethan's struggles with single parenthood, the persistent ache of losses neither of them had fully processed. Claire started looking better. The color returned to her face, and the cough became less frequent. She was sleeping more, eating regular meals, attending therapy twice a week. The withdrawal symptoms were still there, but they were manageable now. She'd made it past the 6-week mark, then the 7-week mark. Each day without a cigarette felt like a small victory. But the situation with her board was getting worse. Richard had rallied more support, and now half the board members were openly questioning whether Claire should remain as CEO. The vote was scheduled for the end of the month, just 2 weeks away. "I need to give them something," Claire said one night. She was pacing the living room while Ethan vacuumed, too restless to sit still. "Some big win that proves I'm still capable of leading this company. But I can't think of anything that would make a difference in 2 weeks." "What about that pitch you mentioned, the one to the venture capital firm?" "Redwood Capital. We're scheduled to present next Friday. If we can secure their investment, it would give us the runway we need to expand without selling. But I've been working on this pitch for 3 months, and it's still not where it needs to be." "Why not?" "Because I can't concentrate. Every time I sit down to work on it, my brain just freezes. I know what I want to say, but I can't make the words come out right. It's like there's a wall between what I'm thinking and what I can communicate." Ethan turned off the vacuum. "Show me what you have." "What?" "Your pitch. Show it to me. Maybe a fresh set of eyes will help." Claire looked skeptical. "You don't know anything about fintech or venture capital." "No, but I know about telling a story. And that's what a pitch is, right? Telling a story that makes people want to invest in you." She hesitated, then went to grab her laptop. They sat on the couch together, and Claire pulled up a presentation deck with 47 slides. "That's way too many slides," Ethan said immediately. "I know, but I need to cover all the technical details, the market analysis, the financial projections. Nobody's going to remember 47 slides worth of information. You need to cut it down to the essentials. What's the one thing you want them to remember when they leave the room?" Claire thought about it. That we're solving a real problem for real people. That we're not just another tech company chasing trends. We're actually making a difference. "Okay, so lead with that. Show them the problem first, then show them your solution. Everything else is supporting detail." They spent the next 2 hours reworking the presentation. Ethan asked questions. Why would a small business owner care about this feature? What happens if they don't use your software? How is this different from what your competitors offer? And Claire answered them, her voice growing more confident as she articulated her vision. By 2 a.m., they'd cut the deck down to 15 slides. It was cleaner, sharper, more focused. Claire read through it one more time, then looked at Ethan with something like wonder in her eyes. This is good. This is really good. It's your pitch. I just helped you organize it. No. You did more than that. You helped me remember why I started this company in the first place. I've been so focused on fighting the board and managing the withdrawal that I forgot what I was actually fighting for. She closed her laptop and set it aside. Thank you. Again. I feel like that's all I ever say to you. You don't have to thank me. I know, but I want to. She looked at him, her expression serious. You've become important to me, Ethan. I don't know what that means or where it goes, but I needed you to know that. Ethan's chest tightened. Claire, I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted to say it. She stood up, wrapping her arms around herself. You should go. I've kept you long enough. He wanted to say something, but the words wouldn't come. So he just nodded and gathered his cleaning supplies. As he headed for the door, Claire called after him. Ethan? He turned. Yeah? I'm going to nail that pitch. I'm going to get the funding, and I'm going to prove Richard and everyone else wrong. And when I do, it's going to be because you helped me believe I could. You already believed it. You just needed someone to remind you. She smiled, and for the first time since he'd met her, it looked like she actually meant it. The next week passed in a blur. Claire practiced her pitch obsessively, running through it dozens of times until every word felt natural. Ethan listened to her practice during his cleaning shifts, offering feedback and encouragement. She was getting better, more confident, more passionate, more like the CEO who'd built a company from nothing. The night before the pitch, Claire was a wreck. Ethan found her sitting on the floor of her office, surrounded by printouts and notes, her laptop balanced on her knees. I can't do this, she said when she saw him. I'm going to get up there and freeze, or cough in the middle of my presentation, or forget everything I want to say. They're going to see right through me. No, they won't. You've got this. You don't know that? Yeah, I do, because I've watched you practice this pitch 50 times, and it gets better every single time. You know this material inside and out, and more importantly, you believe in it. That's what's going to come through. Claire looked up at him, her eyes red from exhaustion. What if I fail? Then you fail, and you figure out what to do next, but you're not going to fail. How can you be so sure? Because failing would require you to give up, and you don't know how to do that. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she started gathering up the papers scattered around her. You're right. I need to stop catastrophizing and get some sleep. Freaking out isn't going to help anything. Smart woman. Sometimes. She stood up, steadying herself against the desk. Would you want to know how it goes after the pitch? Of course. Text me when you're done. Okay. She hesitated. And Ethan? Thank you for believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself. He wanted to tell her that belief wasn't the hard part, that the hard part was watching her struggle and not being able to fix it, was caring about someone who existed in a completely different world than his. But instead, he just said, anytime. The next day dragged on forever. Ethan went through his routine, breakfast with Maya, getting her on the school bus, collapsing into bed for a few hours of fitful sleep. But he couldn't stop checking his phone, waiting for Claire's text. It finally came at 4:37 p.m., just as Ethan was starting dinner prep. We got it, $15 million Series B funding. Richard's face when I told the board was priceless. Thank you for everything. Ethan read the message 3 times, a grin spreading across his face. He texted back, congratulations, told you you'd nail it. Her response came immediately. I couldn't have done it without you. He wanted to say something more, something that captured the strange mix of pride and relief, and something else he couldn't quite name. But Maya came running into the kitchen asking about dinner, and the moment passed. That night, when he showed up for his cleaning shift, Claire was waiting for him in the lobby. She was wearing a navy blue dress and heels, her hair pulled back in her usual bun. But there was something different about her, something lighter. Hey, she said, smiling. I wanted to catch you before you went up. Congratulations on the funding. That's huge. It is. The board's backing off, at least for now. Richard's still being a pain, but without the majority support, there's nothing he can do. She paused. I wanted to celebrate. With you, if you're willing. There's a 24-hour diner 2 blocks from here. I'll buy you the best mediocre pancakes in the city. Ethan glanced at the elevator, then back at Claire. His supervisor would kill him if he skipped another shift. But looking at Claire's hopeful expression, he realized he didn't care. "Pancakes sound great," he said. They walked to the diner together, the November air cold enough to make their breath visible. The place was nearly empty, just a tired-looking waitress and a guy in the corner booth nursing a cup of coffee. They slid into a booth by the window and Claire ordered a stack of blueberry pancakes while Ethan got chocolate chip. The food arrived quickly, steaming and covered in too much syrup. "This is terrible," Claire said after her first bite. "Completely awful," Ethan agreed, grinning. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Claire said, "I've been thinking about what happens next, after everything settles down with the board and the company." "What do you mean?" "I mean, this arrangement we have. You cleaning my house while I pour my heart out to you at 2 a.m. It's not exactly normal." "No, it's not. But I don't want it to stop." She met his eyes. "You've become one of the only real friends I have. Maybe the only one. And I don't want to lose that just because I'm not actively falling apart anymore." Ethan set down his fork. "I don't want to lose it either, but Claire, you need to understand. I'm a 32-year-old single dad who works night shifts cleaning office buildings. You're a CEO who just secured $15 million in funding. Our lives don't exactly overlap. So I don't want you to look back on this in 6 months and realize you only needed me when things were hard. That once you got your life together, I didn't fit anymore." Claire reached across the table and took his hand. "That's not going to happen. You're not just some crisis counselor I used and discarded. She stopped, searching for words. "You're someone who saw me at my absolute worst and didn't run away. That matters. You matter." Ethan looked down at their joined hands. This was dangerous territory, and they both knew it. But he couldn't bring himself to pull away. "I care about you too," he said quietly, "more than I probably should." "There's no should about it. We feel what we feel." "And what do we do about it?" Claire smiled. "We finish these terrible pancakes, and then we figure it out as we go." They stayed at the diner until almost midnight, talking about everything except the obvious thing hanging between them. Claire told him about the Redwood Capital Partners, how they'd asked tough questions, but she'd answered every single one without hesitation. Ethan told her about Maya's latest school project, a papier-mâché volcano that had exploded all over their kitchen floor. When they finally left, the temperature had dropped even further. Claire shivered in her thin coat, and Ethan instinctively moved closer, blocking the wind. "I should get you back," he said. "I can walk myself home. It's 2 blocks." "I know you can, but I'm walking with you anyway." She didn't argue. They walked slowly, neither of them in a hurry to end the evening. When they reached her building, Claire stopped at the entrance and turned to face him. "Thank you for tonight," she said. "I needed this. Something normal and uncomplicated. Pancakes at midnight with your cleaning guy. Very normal." She laughed. "You know what I mean." Ethan did know. He also knew this was the moment where he should say goodnight and walk away, maintain whatever professional boundaries were left between them. Instead, he heard himself say, "Do you want me to come up? Finish the cleaning I was supposed to do 3 hours ago?" Claire's eyes searched his face. "Is that really what you want to do? Clean?" "No, but I don't know what else to offer." "How about just being there? We could watch something terrible on TV, or you could tell me more about Maya, or we could sit in silence. I don't care. I don't want to be alone tonight." Something in Ethan's chest cracked open. "Okay." They rode the elevator up in silence, standing on opposite sides like they were trying to maintain some kind of distance. But when they got to the penthouse, Claire kicked off her heels and headed straight for the couch, curling up in the corner with the throw blanket. "Remote's on the coffee table," she said. "Pick whatever you want." Ethan sat on the other end of the couch and scrolled through the channels until he found an old action movie, something mindless with explosions and car chases. They watched for a while, the volume low, neither of them really paying attention. "Can I ask you something?" Claire said during a commercial break. "Sure." "Do you ever think about what your life would look like if Sarah hadn't died? If she'd beaten the cancer or never gotten it in the first place?" Ethan thought about it. "Sometimes, but it doesn't help. You can't live in the what-ifs." "I know. But don't you wonder if things had been different?" "Of course I do. I wonder if she would have finally quit smoking for real, if we would have had more kids, if I would have gone back to school, finished that teaching degree." He paused. But I also know that the life I'm living now, as hard as it is, it's the only one I've got. There's no point torturing myself with alternate versions. Claire pulled the blanket tighter. I think about alternate versions all the time. What if I hadn't started smoking in business school? What if I'd said yes when my ex-fiancé asked me to scale back my hours? What if I'd been a different person, someone who could balance everything instead of letting one thing consume me? You'd probably be miserable. That different version of you wouldn't have built a company, wouldn't have secured $15 million in funding today, wouldn't be who you are. And who am I? Someone who fights, someone who doesn't give up even when everything's falling apart, someone who's learning to ask for help instead of doing everything alone. He looked at her. That's pretty impressive. Claire's eyes were glistening again. She seemed to cry more easily these days, like quitting smoking had stripped away some protective layer and left her emotions closer to the surface. I'm scared, she said quietly. I'm scared that I'm going to mess this up. The company, my recovery, this, whatever this is between us. I'm scared that one day I'm going to wake up and the cravings will be too strong and I'll light up a cigarette and all of this progress will have been for nothing. That might happen. Recovery isn't linear. Sarah relapsed 4 times before the cancer diagnosis. But that doesn't mean the progress was for nothing. Every day you don't smoke, you're healing. Even if you slip up, that doesn't erase the healing you've already done. How do you know that? I don't. But I have to believe it's true, or else what was the point of any of Sarah's attempts? What's the point of you trying now? He shifted on the couch, turning to face her more fully. You can't live your life waiting for the other shoe to drop. At some point, you have to trust that you're going to make it through. Claire wiped her eyes. When did you get so wise? You keep asking me that. I'm not wise. I'm just a guy who's made enough mistakes to recognize patterns. She moved closer, closing the distance between them on the couch. I'm glad you're here. Me too. They sat like that for a long time, close but not touching, watching the movie without really seeing it. At some point, Claire's breathing evened out and her head tilted onto Ethan's shoulder. He stayed perfectly still, afraid to move and wake her. This was a bad idea. Getting involved with a client, blurring lines that should stay sharp. But sitting here with Claire asleep against him felt more right than anything had in a long time. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He carefully extracted it and saw a text from Jessica. Where are you? It's almost 1 a.m. and you haven't checked in. He typed back one-handed. Sorry, got held up at work. Heading home soon. You better be. Maya has a field trip tomorrow and needs her permission slip signed. Ethan cursed under his breath. He'd completely forgotten about the field trip. He needed to get home, find the slip in Maya's backpack, sign it, and get at least a few hours of sleep before she woke up. He gently shifted Claire's head off his shoulder and stood up. She stirred, blinking up at him in confusion. You're leaving? I have to. Maya has a field trip tomorrow, and I forgot to sign the permission slip. Claire sat up, running her hands through her hair. Right, of course. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to fall asleep on you. Don't apologize, but I really do need to go. She walked him to the door, still wrapped in the blanket like a cocoon. Will you be back on Friday for your regular shift? Yeah, unless you're firing me for skipping work tonight. I could never fire you. You're the only person who tells me the truth. She paused. And Ethan, tonight meant something to me. I just wanted you to know that. He wanted to say it meant something to him too, that these past weeks had changed something fundamental in how he saw his life. But the words felt too big, too complicated for 1 a.m. in her doorway. Get some sleep, he said instead. And congratulations again on the funding. Thanks, she smiled. Drive safe. The drive home was a blur of streetlights and second-guessing. Ethan kept replaying the evening in his head. The diner, the couch, Claire falling asleep on his shoulder. It felt like they'd crossed some invisible line, and he wasn't sure if that was good or terrible. When he got home, Jessica was waiting up, looking annoyed. You're lucky I already found the permission slip and signed it for you, she said, handing him the paper. What the hell, E? You never blow off work. I didn't blow it off. I just got sidetracked. Sidetracked with what? Nothing, just talking to a client. Jessica's eyes narrowed. Talking to a client until 1 a.m, that's not like you. Can we not do this right now? I'm exhausted. Fine, but we're talking about this later. She grabbed her coat. Maya's asleep. Her lunch is packed. Don't forget the permission slip. I won't. Thanks, Jess. After she left, Ethan collapsed onto his bed fully clothed. He set his alarm for 6:30 a.m. and closed his eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. His mind kept circling back to Claire, to the way she'd looked at him in the diner, to the feeling of her head resting on his shoulder. This was getting complicated, more complicated than he knew how to handle. The next few days passed in a strange fog. Ethan went through the motions, work, Maya, sleep, but part of his mind was always elsewhere. He kept checking his phone for texts from Claire, even though she rarely texted him outside of their regular cleaning schedule. When Friday finally came, he found himself nervous in a way he hadn't been since high school. He showed up at the penthouse at 11:45 p.m. with his cleaning cart, unsure of what to expect. Claire answered the door herself instead of letting him use his key. She was in casual clothes, jeans and a sweater, and her hair was down. "Hey," she said. "Hey." They stared at each other for a moment, the air thick with everything unsaid. "So," Claire said finally, "are we going to talk about it?" "Talk about what?" "About the fact that we're not just cleaning person and client anymore. About what's happening between us." Ethan set down his cleaning cart. "What is happening between us?" "I don't know, but I think we need to figure it out before this gets any more confusing." She stepped back, letting him into the apartment. "Come in, please." He followed her to the living room, and they sat on opposite ends of the couch like they were negotiating a business deal. "I care about you," Claire said, getting straight to the point. "More than I should, probably. And I think you care about me too. But I don't know what we're supposed to do about that." "Neither do I. We're in completely different worlds. You have a daughter, a life that doesn't include midnight conversations in penthouse apartments. I have a company that demands everything from me. And even if we wanted to try something, I don't know how it would work." Ethan had been thinking the same thing all week. It probably wouldn't work. The logistics alone... Right. The logistics. Claire pulled her knees up to her chest. "So maybe we should just acknowledge that this is complicated and impossible and go back to how things were before." "Before what? Before we had pancakes at midnight? Before you fell asleep on my shoulder? Before we started pretending this could be something it's not." The words hit harder than Ethan expected. "Is that what you think this is? Pretending? I don't know what else to call it. We're two lonely people who found comfort in each other during a difficult time, but that doesn't mean it translates to the real world." Ethan stood up, frustrated. "You keep talking about the real world like this isn't real. Like these conversations we've had, the things we've shared, like none of that matters because I clean houses for a living and you run a company." "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" "Because it sounds like you're trying to convince yourself that whatever this is, it's not worth pursuing." Claire stood up too, her voice rising. "Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm trying to protect both of us from making a huge mistake. You have Maya to think about. What happens when she asks why Daddy's spending so much time with some woman she's never met? What happens when this falls apart and you're left explaining to a 6-year-old why another person left? You don't know it would fall apart." "Yes, I do, because that's what I do, Ethan. I destroy relationships. I put work first. I push people away when they get too close, and I end up alone. Every single time." Her hands were shaking. "I'm trying to save you from that. From me." Ethan crossed the room and took her hands in his. "Stop deciding what's best for me. I'm a grown man. I can make my own choices." "And what do you choose?" He looked at her, really looked at her. At the fear and hope warring in her expression, at the way she was trying so hard to protect herself from getting hurt, and he realized that for all her success and confidence, Claire Donovan was terrified of being vulnerable. "I choose to see where this goes," he said. "It might be complicated, it might not work, but I'd rather try and fail than spend the rest of my life wondering what if." Claire's eyes filled with tears. "I'm not good at this, at letting people in." "I know, but you've been letting me in for weeks now. This is just the next step. What if I mess it up?" "Then we deal with it, together." He squeezed her hands. "But you have to stop running from this. From us." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "I'm scared of losing you. If we try this and it doesn't work, I lose the one person who's been there for me through everything. I don't know if I can risk that." "You won't lose me. Even if the romantic part doesn't work out, I'm not going anywhere." "You can't promise that." "You're right, I can't. But I can promise I'll try. That I'll show up and be honest and not run when things get hard. That's all anyone can promise. Claire pulled her hands free and wrapped her arms around herself. I need time to think about this, to figure out if I'm ready. Ethan felt the rejection like a punch to the gut, but he nodded. Okay, take the time you need. I'm not saying no, I need to be sure, for both of us. I understand. But he wasn't sure he did. He grabbed his cleaning cart and started going through the motions of his job, dusting and vacuuming while Claire disappeared into her bedroom. The silence felt heavier than usual, weighted with disappointment. He finished cleaning around 1:30 a.m. and let himself out without saying goodbye. The elevator ride down felt like descending from one world into another, and Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that he just made a terrible mistake. Over the next week, things between them were strained. Ethan showed up for his shifts, cleaned the penthouse, and left. Claire was polite but distant, their conversations limited to brief exchanges about whether she needed anything. It was torture. Worse than the before times when they'd been strangers, because now Ethan knew what it felt like to have her trust, her openness. And he'd lost it by pushing too hard, too fast. On his second shift that week, he found Claire in her office, staring at her computer screen with bloodshot eyes. You okay? He asked from the doorway. She looked up, startled. Yeah, just dealing with some board stuff. Richard's being difficult again. Need to talk about it? No, I've got it handled. She turned back to her screen, dismissing him. Ethan retreated, feeling the distance between them like a physical ache. He finished his cleaning in record time and left without saying goodbye. That night, lying in bed and staring at the ceiling, he wondered if he should just request a different assignment, ask Donna to put him on a different route, let someone else clean Claire's penthouse. It would be easier than this limbo, this constant reminder of what could have been. But the thought of someone else being there, listening to her problems, seeing her at her most vulnerable, it made his chest tight with something that felt uncomfortably like jealousy. The following Tuesday, Ethan arrived at the penthouse to find it dark. All the lights were off, and there was no answer when he knocked. He used his key and found Claire sitting on the floor of her living room, her back against the couch, staring out at the city lights. Claire! He flipped on a lamp and she flinched at the sudden brightness. Don't, she said. Turn it off. He turned it off and sat down on the floor beside her. What happened? I had a craving, a bad one. Worst I've had in weeks. Her voice was hollow. I was at a networking event, and everyone was out on the balcony smoking, and the smell it hit me like a truck. I wanted a cigarette so badly I could barely breathe. But you didn't smoke? No. I left the event early, came home, and I've been sitting here for 3 hours trying to make the craving go away. She turned to look at him, and even in the darkness, he could see the exhaustion on her face. I don't know how much longer I can do this. Yes, you do. You've been doing it for almost 3 months now. 3 months feels like nothing. I have to do this for the rest of my life. Every day, choosing not to smoke, never being able to relax, never being able to have just one. And I'm so tired, Ethan. I'm tired of fighting. He understood that exhaustion. Had felt it himself in the months after Sarah died, when every day felt like dragging himself through mud. What do you need right now? He asked. I don't know. I don't want to be alone. Okay, then I'll stay. They sat in silence for a while, watching the city lights flicker and shift. Finally, Claire said, I've been thinking about what you said, about trying. Ethan's heart kicked up. And I'm still scared. But I'm scared of losing you more, of pushing you away because I'm too afraid to take a risk. She shifted closer, her shoulder pressing against his. I don't know how to do this, how to let someone in without destroying everything, but I want to try. If you're still willing, I'm willing. Even though I'm a mess, even though I might screw this up. Everyone's a mess, and everyone screws things up. That's not a reason not to try. Claire rested her head on his shoulder, and Ethan felt something in his chest loosen. I missed this. I missed you. I missed you too. I'm sorry I pulled away. I thought I was protecting us, but I was just being a coward. You're not a coward. You're careful. There's a difference. She laughed softly. You always know what to say? Not always, but I'm learning. They stayed like that for a long time, sitting on the floor in the darkness. Eventually, Claire's breathing evened out, and Ethan realized she'd fallen asleep again. He carefully maneuvered her onto the couch and covered her with the throw blanket. He should leave, go finish his other buildings, maintain some semblance of his actual job. But instead, he sat down in the armchair and watched her sleep, making sure she was okay. His phone buzzed with a text from Donna. "Where are you? You missed 2 buildings tonight. Call me first thing tomorrow." Ethan sighed and typed back, "Family emergency. We'll explain tomorrow." It wasn't exactly a lie. Claire had become something like family to him, in the strange way that people sometimes did when you let them past your defenses. He left around 3 a.m. after making sure Claire was still sleeping peacefully. On his drive home, he thought about what came next. They'd agreed to try. But what did that actually mean? Dating felt too simple a word for whatever this was. They couldn't exactly go to restaurants or movies, not with his schedule and her public profile. And there was still Maya to consider. When did he tell his daughter that he was seeing someone? How did he explain that the someone was the woman whose house he cleaned? These were problems for tomorrow. Tonight, it was enough to know that Claire wanted to try, that she was willing to risk getting hurt if it meant not losing what they had. When he got home, Jessica was asleep on the couch as usual. He woke her gently, and she blinked up at him in confusion. "What time is it?" 3:30. "Sorry, I'm so late." She sat up, rubbing her eyes. "Your boss called me tonight, said you've been missing shifts." Ethan's stomach dropped. "What did you tell her?" "That you've been dealing with some personal stuff and you'd talk to her tomorrow. But seriously, what's going on? This isn't like you." He sat down on the coffee table facing her. "I met someone." Jessica's eyes went wide. "You what?" "I met someone. It's complicated. I clean her apartment, and we started talking, and it turned into something more." "Oh my God, you're dating a client?" We're not exactly dating. We're just figuring things out." "Does Donna know?" "No. And she can't know, or I'll get fired." Jessica stared at him. "This is insane. You could lose your job over this." "I know. And you're doing it anyway." "Yeah, I am." She was quiet for a moment, studying his face. "You really care about her." It wasn't a question, but Ethan answered anyway. "I do. More than you cared about Sarah." The question caught him off guard. "It's different. What I had with Sarah, we were kids when we got together. We grew up together, had Maya together, but we also grew apart. By the end, I don't know if we were still in love or just going through the motions because we had a child together. And this woman, Claire sees me, not as Maya's dad or as a guy who cleans buildings, just as me. And I see her the same way, not as this successful CEO, but as someone who's fighting to be better, to survive." He ran his hands through his hair. "I know it's complicated, I know it might blow up in my face, but for the first time in 2 years, I feel like I'm actually living instead of just existing." Jessica reached out and squeezed his hand. "Then I'm happy for you. But you need to be careful. Don't lose yourself in this." "I won't. And you need to tell Maya, soon, before she finds out some other way." "I know. I'm just waiting for the right time." "There's never a right time. You just have to do it." She was right, but that didn't make the thought of that conversation any easier. After Jessica left, Ethan checked on Maya, still sound asleep, her stuffed rabbit clutched tight, and then collapsed into his own bed. He had maybe 3 hours before he needed to wake up and start the whole routine again. But despite the exhaustion, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The next morning, Ethan called Donna before Maya's bus arrived. "I'm sorry about last night," he said. "I had a situation and I couldn't get to the other buildings." "A situation?" Donna's voice was flat. "That's the 3rd time this month you've had a situation. What's going on, Ethan?" "I've been dealing with some personal stuff, but I'll make up the shifts. I can work this weekend." "That's not the point. I need people I can count on. And lately, you've been unreliable." The word stung. Ethan had always prided himself on being reliable, on showing up no matter what. "I understand. It won't happen again. See that it doesn't. You're a good worker, but I can't keep making excuses for you." "I appreciate that. And Ethan, whatever's going on with the Donovan account, keep it professional. I've had other clients mention they've seen you there outside your scheduled hours." His blood ran cold. "Who mentioned that?" "Doesn't matter. Just keep it professional. That's all I'm saying." She hung up before he could respond. Ethan stared at his phone, feeling the walls closing in. Someone had seen him at Claire's building outside his regular shifts, which meant people were talking, which meant it was only a matter of time before this whole thing exploded. He needed to talk to Claire, tell her what Donna had said, figure out how to handle this before it became a bigger problem. But first, he had to get Maya to school and himself through another day. That night, when he showed up at the penthouse, Claire was waiting for him with takeout from the Thai place. "I thought we could eat together before you start cleaning," she said. "If that's okay." "Claire, we need to talk." Her face fell. That's never a good way to start a conversation. "My boss called me today. Someone's been reporting that I'm at your building outside my scheduled shifts. She's warning me to keep things professional." Claire set down the takeout containers. "Who would report that?" "Could be anyone. Building security, another tenant, another cleaner. The point is, people are noticing, and if this continues, I'm going to lose my job." "Then we'll be more careful. You can come up through the service entrance, or we can meet somewhere else." "Claire, that's not the point. The point is we're trying to build something while hiding it from everyone. That's not sustainable." "So what are you saying? That we should stop?" "No. I'm saying we need to figure out what this actually is. Are we dating? Are we just friends? Because right now we're in this weird middle ground, and it's going to get both of us in trouble." Claire was quiet for a long moment. "You're right. We need to define this." "Okay, so what do you want?" "I want..." She stopped, struggling with the words. "I want to be with you. Actually with you, not just having these secret late-night conversations. I want to try having something real. Even if it means people knowing about us?" "Yes, even then." She met his eyes. "I'm tired of hiding. From my board, from myself, from everything. If I'm going to do this, to actually try to have a relationship, I need to stop being ashamed of it." "I'm not ashamed of you." "I know, but I've been ashamed of needing anyone, of not being able to handle everything on my own, and that ends now." She took his hands. "I want to try this for real, but that means you need to tell Maya, and I need to stop treating you like a secret." Ethan felt a mix of relief and terror. "Okay, I'll talk to Maya this weekend, and I'll talk to my therapist about how to balance a relationship with everything else I have going on. Look at us, being adults and communicating." Claire smiled. "It's weird, right?" "So weird." They ate their Thai food sitting on the couch, and for the first time in weeks, the tension between them had eased. They talked about logistics, when they could see each other, how to keep Ethan's job secure, what to tell people when they inevitably ask questions. It felt good. Terrifying, but good. After dinner, Ethan actually cleaned the penthouse while Claire worked on her laptop. It was almost normal, this new version of their routine. When he finished around 1 a.m., Claire walked him to the door. "So," she said, "we're really doing this." "Looks like it. I'm going to screw it up at some point. Just warning you now. And I'll probably do something stupid that hurts your feelings. We're both going to mess up. But that's okay." She kissed him then, quick and soft, and Ethan felt something shift into place. Like a piece of his life that had been missing finally clicked home. "Good night, Ethan," she said, smiling. "Good night, Claire." He floated through the rest of the week, feeling lighter than he had in months. Everything was still complicated, still risky. But it was happening. They were actually trying. On Saturday morning, after Maya finished her breakfast, Ethan sat her down at the kitchen table. "Baby girl, I need to talk to you about something." She looked up at him with wide eyes. "Am I in trouble?" "No, sweetie, nothing like that. I've met someone, a friend, and I think she's going to be around more, so I wanted to tell you about her." Maya's face scrunched up in confusion. "A friend like Aunt Jessica?" "Sort of, but different. Her name is Claire, and she's someone I care about a lot. Like how you cared about Mommy?" The question gutted him, but he kept his voice steady. "Different from how I cared about Mommy. But yes, I care about her very much." Maya was quiet, processing. "Is she going to be my new mommy?" "No, baby. Nobody's ever going to replace Mommy. But Claire might become part of our family if things work out. Would that be okay?" "I don't know. I never met her." "You will, soon. And then you can decide if you like her." "What if I don't like her?" Ethan pulled Maya into his lap. "Then we'll figure it out. But I think you will. She's pretty great. Maya rested her head against his chest. Okay, Daddy. Okay. Yeah, I trust you. Those 3 words, I trust you, hit harder than anything else could have. Maya trusted him to make good choices, to protect her, to not bring someone into their lives who would hurt them. He just hoped he was worthy of that trust. The meeting between Claire and Maya was scheduled for the following Sunday afternoon at a small park near Ethan's apartment. Claire had suggested somewhere neutral, somewhere Maya would feel comfortable, and Ethan appreciated the thoughtfulness behind it. He was nervous in a way he hadn't been since his first date with Sarah back in high school. He changed his shirt 3 times, checked his phone obsessively, and Maya finally asked him why he was acting so weird. I'm not acting weird, he said, which was a lie, and they both knew it. You are. You keep looking at your phone, and you fixed your hair like 5 times. I just want things to go well today. Maya tilted her head, studying him with the unsettling perception that 6-year-olds sometimes had. You really like her, huh? Yeah, baby, I really do. Then she'll probably like you too. The simple confidence in her voice made Ethan's chest tight. He pulled her into a hug and kissed the top of her head. When did you get so smart? I was always smart. You just didn't notice. They walked to the park hand in hand, Maya chattering about her upcoming school play where she'd been cast as a tree. Ethan only half listened, his mind already at the park, wondering if Claire would show up early or late, if she'd be as nervous as he was. She was already there when they arrived, sitting on a bench near the playground. She stood up when she saw them, and Ethan noticed she was wearing jeans and a simple sweater, probably the most casual he'd ever seen her. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and she looked younger somehow, less like a CEO and more like someone you might run into at a coffee shop. Hi, she said, her voice a little uncertain. Hi, Ethan replied. He looked down at Maya, who was suddenly shy, half hiding behind his leg. Maya, this is Claire. Claire, this is my daughter Maya. Claire crouched down to Maya's level, which Ethan noticed and appreciated. It's really nice to meet you, Maya. Your dad's told me a lot about you. Maya peeked out from behind Ethan's leg. Like what? Like how you're really good at drawing dinosaurs, and that you're going to be a tree in your school play. I'm the tallest tree, Maya said, warming up slightly, because I'm tall for my age. That's perfect for a tree. The tall ones are the most important ones. Maya seemed to consider this, then stepped out from behind Ethan completely. Do you like swings? I do. Want to show me? They walked over to the swing set together, and Ethan followed at a distance, giving them space but staying close enough to intervene if needed. He watched as Claire pushed Maya on the swing, the 2 of them talking about something he couldn't quite hear. After about 20 minutes, Maya ran back to him, breathless and smiling. Daddy, Claire says she's never been on a seesaw before. Can you believe that? Never? Never ever. We have to show her. So the 3 of them ended up on the seesaw, Maya on one end, Ethan and Claire on the other, trying to balance their combined weight against Maya's much lighter frame. It was ridiculous and awkward and perfect. This is harder than it looks, Claire said, laughing as they bounced up and down. That's because Daddy's heavy, Maya called out from her end. Hey, I'm not heavy. I'm big-boned. Claire snorted, and Ethan realized he'd never heard her actually snort laugh before. It was unguarded and genuine, and he felt something warm spread through his chest. They spent 2 hours at the park. Maya showed Claire her favorite climbing structure, taught her how to pump her legs on the swing to go higher, and shared her graham crackers during snack time. Claire was patient and attentive, asking questions and listening to Maya's rambling stories with genuine interest. As the afternoon wound down and Maya started to get tired, they walked slowly back toward Ethan's apartment. Maya held both their hands, swinging between them like a bridge. Can Claire come over for dinner? Maya asked. Ethan looked at Claire, raising his eyebrows in question. She nodded. Sure, baby, if Claire wants to. I'd love to, Claire said. They ended up ordering pizza because Ethan's cooking skills were limited, and Claire admitted she'd probably set the kitchen on fire if she tried. They ate sitting on the floor of Ethan's small living room because the kitchen table only had 2 chairs, and Maya insisted on showing Claire her entire collection of drawings. This one's a T-Rex, Maya explained, holding up a crayon drawing of what might have been a dinosaur or possibly a very angry chicken. And this one's a Triceratops. And this one's Mommy. The last drawing showed 3 stick figures, a tall one, a medium one, and a small one, holding hands under a bright yellow sun. The medium figure had long hair and a big smile. Claire studied the drawing carefully. Your mommy looks very happy here. Daddy says she's in heaven now, but I still draw her sometimes so I don't forget. That's a really good idea. I draw pictures of my parents sometimes too. They're not here anymore either. Maya looked up at Claire with new interest. Really? Really. They died a long time ago, but I still think about them. Do you miss them? Every day. Maya seemed to think about this, then carefully added the drawing of her mother to a special pile she kept separate from the others. Maybe you could draw with me sometime, if you want. I'd like that. After dinner, Maya started nodding off on the couch, her head drooping against Ethan's arm. He carried her to her bedroom and tucked her in, pulling the covers up to her chin. I like Claire, Maya mumbled, already half asleep. Yeah? Yeah, she's nice, and she's not trying to be my new mommy. She's just Claire. Ethan kissed her forehead. That's exactly right, baby girl. Good night. Night, Daddy. When he came back to the living room, Claire was cleaning up the pizza boxes and paper plates, stacking them neatly by the trash can. You don't have to do that, Ethan said. I know, but I wanted to help. She finished cleaning and turned to face him. So, how do you think that went? I think it went really well. Maya likes you. I like her too. She's amazing, Ethan. You're doing a great job with her. Most days I have no idea what I'm doing. That's parenthood, from what I understand. Just showing up and hoping you don't screw them up too badly. Ethan laughed. Yeah, that's pretty much it. They sat down on the couch, the same couch where Jessica usually slept when she watched Maya. It felt strange having Claire here, in his actual life, instead of the separate world of her penthouse. Thank you for today, Claire said, for introducing me to her. I know that wasn't easy. It was easier than I thought it would be. You were great with her. I was terrified. I've never really been around kids. I kept worrying I'd say the wrong thing or bore her or, I don't know, somehow mess it up. You didn't mess anything up. You were just yourself. That's all she needed. Claire leaned her head on his shoulder, and Ethan put his arm around her. They sat like that for a while, comfortable in the silence. I have to tell you something, Claire said finally. Okay. The board wants me to do a profile for a business magazine. One of those young CEOs to watch pieces. They think it'll be good publicity after the funding round. That sounds great. It would be, except they want to do a whole thing about my personal life, my journey, my struggles, what makes me tick. And I'm thinking about telling them about the smoking, about quitting, about all of it. Ethan sat up straighter. Are you sure? You said if the board found out. I know what I said, but I'm tired of hiding, and you were right. Honesty is stronger than perfection. If I tell my story, own it completely, then Richard and the others can't use it against me. What does your therapist say? She thinks it could be empowering, a way to take control of my own narrative instead of letting fear control me. Claire pulled away slightly so she could look at him. But it would mean everything becoming public. People would know I lied about smoking for years. They'd know I've been struggling, and they'd probably figure out about us too. Is that what you're worried about? People knowing about us? Part of it. I don't want you to get dragged into my mess. The media can be brutal, and if they find out I'm dating my cleaning person. Hey, don't call yourself a mess, and I don't care what the media says. You might when reporters start showing up at your apartment, when Maya's school gets calls from tabloids asking about your personal life. Ethan hadn't thought about that. The idea of photographers following Maya, of strangers digging into their lives, made his skin crawl. Okay, he said slowly. That's a valid concern. But Claire, you can't make decisions about your life based on protecting me. If telling your story is the right thing for you, then do it. We'll deal with the fallout together. You say that now? I mean it. Whatever happens, we'll handle it. But you need to stop trying to protect everyone else at the expense of yourself. That's what got you into this situation in the first place. Claire was quiet for a long moment. You're right. I know you're right. I keep waiting for you to realize this is too hard and walk away. I'm not going anywhere. How many times do I have to tell you that? Probably a few hundred more. I'm a slow learner when it comes to trust. Ethan pulled her close again. Then I'll keep telling you until you believe it. They stayed like that until Claire's phone buzzed with an email notification. She checked it and sighed. I should go. Early meeting tomorrow with the marketing team. On a Monday morning? That's cruel. Welcome to my world. She stood up and grabbed her jacket. Thank you again for today, for letting me meet Maya. It means everything. She'll want to see you again. Fair warning. Good. Because I want to see her again too. Claire paused at the door. And Ethan, I meant what I said about being tired of hiding. I'm going to do the interview, tell them everything, and whatever happens after that, we'll face it together. Together, Ethan agreed. After she left, he cleaned up the rest of the pizza mess and checked on Maya one more time. She was sprawled across her bed, one arm hanging off the edge, completely dead to the world. His phone buzzed with a text from Claire. Made it home safe. Today was perfect. Thank you for trusting me with your daughter. He typed back, She's not the only one I'm trusting you with. Her response came quickly. I know, and I'm not going to let you down. Ethan hoped she was right, because they were all in now. No more half measures or secret meetings. Whatever came next, they'd face it in the full light of day. The interview was scheduled for 2 weeks later. In the meantime, Claire threw herself into preparing, working with her therapist to figure out exactly what she wanted to say and how to say it. Ethan listened as she practiced different versions, offering feedback when she asked for it. I started smoking when I was 18, Claire said, reading from her notes one night while Ethan cleaned her kitchen. It was a way to cope with the pressure of business school, the expectations I put on myself, the fear of failure. And it became something I couldn't quit, even when I knew it was destroying me. That's good. Honest. But is it too honest? Am I giving them ammunition to tear me down? Possibly. But you're also giving them something real. People respect that more than they respect fake perfection. Claire set down her notes and rubbed her eyes. I keep second-guessing every word. What if I say too much? What if I don't say enough? What if... Claire, stop. You're catastrophizing again. I know, I can't help it. She walked over to where he was loading the dishwasher. Tell me about your day. Distract me from my spiral. So Ethan told her about Maya's school play rehearsal, where she'd been so nervous about her tree lines that she'd forgotten them completely and just stood there frozen until another kid whispered them to her. About how Jessica had announced she was seeing someone new, a guy from her yoga class, and Ethan had had to give her the protective older brother routine even though she was 30 years old. You're a good brother, Claire said. I try. She put up with a lot from me after Sarah died, watched Maya for free more times than I can count, listened to me complain, never once told me to get my act together even though I probably needed to hear it. Family shows up, that's what they do. Yeah, although lately I've been thinking family isn't just blood. It's the people who show up when things get hard. Claire smiled. Is that your way of saying I'm family now? Maybe. If you want to be. I do. Want to be, I mean. She was quiet for a moment, then said, I never had much family growing up. After my parents died, it was just me and my brother, and we never got along. He thought I was too driven, too ambitious, said I cared more about success than about people. We haven't spoken in 5 years. Do you miss him? Sometimes, but mostly I just feel guilty, like I should have tried harder to maintain the relationship. Been a better sister. You can't maintain a relationship by yourself. He had to meet you halfway. I know. My therapist says the same thing. But knowing it intellectually and believing it emotionally are two different things. Ethan closed the dishwasher and turned to face her. For what it's worth, I think you're great at relationships. You've been patient with me, kind to Maya, honest about your struggles. That's more than a lot of people manage. I'm still learning. This whole thing, being vulnerable, asking for help, letting someone see the messy parts, it doesn't come naturally. It doesn't come naturally to anyone. We're all just faking it and hoping we don't screw up too badly. Claire laughed, and some of the tension left her shoulders. When did we become so wise? I think it happened somewhere between the terrible diner pancakes and the pizza on my living room floor. Those were good moments. Yeah, they were. The night before the interview, Claire called Ethan at 11 p.m., which was unusual because she knew he was usually working by then. I can't sleep, she said without preamble. I keep running through everything I'm going to say, and it all sounds wrong. Where are you? Home, in bed, staring at the ceiling. Want me to come over? You're working. I can skip a shift. Donna's already mad at me anyway. Ethan, no, you can't keep skipping work for me. Then what do you need? A long pause. Just talk to me. Tell me something normal. Something that has nothing to do with interviews or business or any of this. So Ethan told her about the new kid in Maya's class who'd moved from another state and didn't know anyone. How Maya had taken it upon herself to be his friend, sharing her crayons and sitting with him at lunch. How proud it made Ethan to see his daughter showing kindness without being asked. She gets that from you, Claire said softly. She gets it from herself. Kids are naturally kind until someone teaches them not to be. I wish I'd known you when I was younger, before I built all these walls. You're tearing them down now. That's what matters. They talked for another hour, about nothing and everything. By the time they hung up, Claire sounded calmer, more centered. Thank you, she said, for being my anchor. Anytime. And Claire, you're going to be great tomorrow. Just tell the truth. That's all you need to do. The interview took place in Claire's office, with a journalist from a major business publication and a photographer who took what felt like 1,000 pictures. Ethan didn't hear from Claire all day, which he tried not to interpret as a bad sign. Finally, at 6 p.m., his phone rang. How'd it go? He asked immediately. I told them everything. The smoking, the quitting, the withdrawal, the board drama, all of it. Claire's voice was shaky. And Ethan? I told them about you. His heart stopped. You what? I told them I've been seeing someone, that he's been instrumental in my recovery. I didn't give them your name or details, but I acknowledged you exist. I couldn't not. You're too important to hide. Ethan sat down on the edge of his bed, processing this. What did they say? They were surprised, interested. They asked follow-up questions, which I mostly deflected, but it's going to be in the article. The fact that I'm in a relationship. Okay, that's fine. You don't sound fine. I'm just thinking about what happens when the article comes out. If people start digging, it won't take long to figure out who I am. I know, and I'm sorry. I should have asked you first before saying anything. In the moment, it felt wrong to pretend you didn't exist. Like I was ashamed, which I'm not. I'm not ashamed either. I'm just worried about Maya, about keeping her out of this. We'll protect her. Whatever it takes, we'll protect her. Ethan wanted to believe that was possible, but he'd seen enough tabloid stories to know that once the media got interested in someone, they didn't care about collateral damage. When does the article come out? He asked. 2 weeks. They're doing a whole spread, photos, interview, sidebar pieces about the company and the industry. Okay, so we have 2 weeks to prepare. Prepare for what? For whatever comes after. The article dropped on a Wednesday morning, and Ethan's phone started buzzing before he'd even finished his first cup of coffee. Messages from people he hadn't talked to in years, all wanting to know if the rumors were true. If he was really dating Claire Donovan. He ignored most of them and called Claire instead. Have you seen it? She asked, her voice tight. Not yet. Is it bad? It's honest, really honest. They didn't sugarcoat anything, but the response has been overwhelming. My phone hasn't stopped ringing. Good overwhelming or bad overwhelming? Both. Some people are supportive, calling me brave for speaking out. Others think I'm weak for admitting I struggled. And then there are the conspiracy theorists who think the whole thing is a publicity stunt. Ethan pulled up the article on his phone while she talked. The headline read, Claire Donovan's Hidden Battle, How the CEO Built an Empire While Fighting Addiction. The piece was long and detailed, covering Claire's rise in the tech industry, her struggles with smoking, her decision to quit, and the toll it had taken on her health and leadership. And there, in the final section, was a paragraph about him. Donovan credits much of her recovery to the support of those closest to her, including a romantic partner she's been seeing for several months. He saw me at my worst and didn't run away, she says. He reminded me that asking for help isn't weakness, it's strength. I don't know if I would have made it through without him. It was vague enough not to identify him directly, but specific enough that anyone who knew them both could put the pieces together. Ethan? You still there? Yeah, sorry. I'm reading it now. Are you mad? No, it's beautiful, Claire, the whole thing. You should be proud. I'm terrified. Richard's already calling for an emergency board meeting. He thinks I've embarrassed the company. Screw Richard. You told your truth. That takes guts. I hope the board sees it that way. Over the next few days, the response to the article snowballed. It was picked up by other publications, shared across social media, debated on business podcasts. Some people praised Claire for her honesty. Others criticized her for waiting so long to quit smoking or questioned whether she was fit to lead a company while dealing with addiction recovery. And then the media started digging into her personal life. It took less than a week for someone to identify Ethan. A photo surfaced of them at the diner that night, taken by someone's phone camera through the window. The headline read, CEO's mystery man identified Claire Donovan dating building cleaner. The tone was condescending, implying that Claire was slumming it or going through some kind of crisis. The comments section was even worse, full of people questioning Ethan's motives, suggesting he was using her for money or status. Ethan tried not to read them, but it was like watching a car crash. He couldn't look away. Jessica showed up at his apartment that evening, waving her phone. Have you seen this garbage? Unfortunately. They're acting like you're some kind of gold digger. It's disgusting. It's the internet. People say stupid things. You're being too calm about this. They're attacking you. What am I supposed to do? Get into arguments with strangers online? That'll just make it worse. Jessica sat down on the couch, still fuming. Does Maya know? Not yet. I'm trying to keep her away from screens until this dies down. And if it doesn't die down, then I'll explain it to her in age-appropriate terms, but right now she's 6. She doesn't need to know that people are saying terrible things about her dad. His phone rang. Claire. He answered immediately. Where are you? She asked. She sounded upset. Home. Why? There are photographers outside my building. They're waiting for me to come out. And Ethan, they have your photo. They're asking the doorman if he knows you, if you've been here. What did the doorman say? Nothing, but it's only a matter of time before they figure everything out. Your address, where Maya goes to school. Stop. We're not catastrophizing. This isn't catastrophizing. This is real. These people don't care about privacy or decency. They just want a story. Ethan could hear the panic in her voice. Claire, listen to me. We're going to handle this. I'm going to call my supervisor, request a different route, so I'm not cleaning your building anymore. That'll at least create some distance. And you're going to ignore the photographers. Don't give them anything to work with. I can't just ignore them. They're everywhere. Yes, you can. You've faced down hostile board members and skeptical investors. A few photographers with cameras are nothing compared to that. She was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry. This is my fault. If I hadn't done the interview... Stop. You did the right thing. The media circus was always a possibility, and we knew that going in. We'll get through it. How can you be so sure? Because we've already survived worse. This is just noise. It'll fade. But over the next week, it didn't fade. More photos surfaced. Ethan leaving Claire's building, the two of them at the park with Maya. Blurry shots taken from a distance. Someone tracked down his cleaning company and started calling, asking for comments. Donna finally called him into the office. Sit down, she said, her expression grim. Ethan sat. I can explain. Can you explain why I have reporters calling me asking about your relationship with a client? Why there are photos of you entering her building at all hours? Why my company is now part of some tabloid drama? It's not what it looks like. It looks like you've been having an inappropriate relationship with a client, which violates about 15 different company policies. It didn't start as a relationship. She was struggling, and I tried to help. It became something more, but not in a predatory way. I swear. Donna leaned back in her chair, studying him. I believe you, but that doesn't change the situation. I've got corporate breathing down my neck, worried about liability. And frankly, I can't have this kind of attention on the company. It's bad for business. Ethan's stomach dropped. Are you firing me? I'm reassigning you. Effective immediately, you're off the Donovan account. You'll be moved to a different route, different buildings, and you'll sign a non-disclosure agreement stating that you won't discuss your relationship with Ms. Donovan in any public forum. That's it? Just a reassignment? That's it. But Ethan? If this continues to blow up, if there are more photos or stories or drama, I'll have no choice but to let you go. Are we clear? Crystal clear. He left Donna's office feeling like he'd dodged a bullet, but also like the ground beneath him was crumbling. He called Claire immediately. "They're taking me off your building," he said. "What? Why?" "Company policy. Too much media attention. I'm being reassigned to a different route." Claire was quiet. "So we can't see each other at the penthouse anymore?" "Not during my shifts, no, but that doesn't mean we can't see each other. We'll just have to be more intentional about it." "Intentional?" "Right." She sounded defeated. "Everything we do has to be calculated now, planned. We can't just exist." "It's temporary. Once the media loses interest, they're not going to lose interest, Ethan. This is a story now, CEO and the cleaner. It's like something out of a romance novel, and they're going to milk it for everything it's worth." "So what are you saying, that we should stop seeing each other until it blows over?" "I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying," her voice cracked. I hate this. I hate that I can't walk out my own front door without cameras in my face. I hate that your daughter might see pictures of her dad online with strangers making awful comments. I hate that we can't just be together without it turning into a spectacle." Ethan felt helpless, listening to her fall apart and not being able to do anything about it. "I'm coming over." "You can't. The photographers—" "I don't care about the photographers. I'm coming over." He hung up before she could argue and grabbed his jacket. Jessica looked up from where she was helping Maya with homework. "Where are you going?" "Claire's. She needs me." "The photographers." "I know, but she needs me." Jessica stood up. "Then be careful. And Ethan, don't let them get any photos of you looking upset or angry. That's what they want." He nodded and headed out. The drive to Claire's building felt longer than usual, his mind racing with everything that could go wrong. When he pulled up to the building, he saw them, 3 photographers with cameras loitering near the entrance. He took a deep breath, got out of his car, and walked toward the door with his head up. The cameras started clicking immediately. "Mr. Brooks, are you here to see Miss Donovan? How long have you two been dating? Is it true you met while cleaning her apartment?" Ethan ignored them all and kept walking. The doorman, bless him, opened the door quickly and ushered him inside. "She's expecting you," he said quietly. "Elevator on the right." Ethan took the elevator up, his heart pounding. When he got to Claire's door, it opened before he could knock. She stood there, eyes red from crying, looking smaller and more vulnerable than he'd ever seen her. "You came," she said. "Of course I came." She threw her arms around him and Ethan held her tight, feeling her shake against him. "I'm so tired," she whispered. "I'm so tired of fighting." "I know, but you're not fighting alone, not anymore." They stood like that for a long time, holding each other in the doorway. And for just a moment, the rest of the world, the photographers, the media circus, the judgment and speculation faded away. It was just the two of them, holding on to each other in the storm. They moved inside, away from the possibility of telephoto lenses and prying eyes. Claire's penthouse felt different now, less like a sanctuary and more like a cage. The floor-to-ceiling windows that once showcased the city's beauty now felt like they were putting them on display. "I made tea," Claire said, gesturing to 2 mugs on the coffee table. "Or tried to. I'm not sure I did it right." Ethan picked up one of the mugs and took a sip. It was weak and barely warm, but he smiled anyway. "It's perfect." "You're a terrible liar." "Yeah, I am." They sat on the couch, and Claire pulled the throw blanket around herself despite the apartment being warm. She looked exhausted, and Ethan noticed her hands were shaking slightly. "When's the last time you slept?" he asked. "I don't know, Monday maybe? Real sleep, I mean. Not just lying in bed staring at the ceiling." "That was 3 days ago. Has it been 3 days?" It all blurs together. She set down her mug and turned to face him. "The board met this morning. Emergency session about the article and the media attention." Ethan's chest tightened. "What did they say?" "Richard pushed for a vote of no confidence. Said I'd embarrassed the company, damaged our reputation, shown poor judgment both personally and professionally." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. He actually used the phrase moral turpitude, like we're living in the 1950s. "Did he get his vote?" "No." Margaret and David shut him down. They said the article showed courage and authenticity, that it humanized the brand. The funding from Redwood Capital spoke for itself. "We're in the strongest position we've been in years. Richard's just bitter because his little coup failed." "So you're keeping your position?" "For now. But they're putting me on a tighter leash. Monthly performance reviews, mandatory attendance at all board meetings, restrictions on media appearances unless approved in advance. She pulled the blanket tighter. I won this round, but it doesn't feel like winning. Ethan reached over and took her hand. You stood up for yourself. You told your truth. That's a win, even if it doesn't feel like one. At what cost, though? Your job is at risk. Maya might get harassed. We can't even see each other without it becoming a news story. Sometimes I think, she stopped, her voice catching. Think what? That maybe you'd be better off without me. That I'm just dragging you and Maya into my mess. Ethan had heard this kind of talk before, from Sarah in her darkest moments. The spiral of self-blame that became its own kind of prison. He squeezed Claire's hand harder. Don't, he said firmly. Don't go down that road. You're not a mess, and we're not better off without you. We're in this together, remember? For better or worse. We're not married, Ethan. You're not bound to me. No, I'm not bound. I'm choosing. Every day I'm choosing this, choosing you. And yeah, it's hard right now. The media attention, the judgment, the uncertainty, it's all hard. But the alternative is walking away from something real, and I'm not willing to do that. Claire's eyes filled with tears. How are you so sure? How do you know this is worth fighting for? Because when I'm with you, I feel like myself again. Not just Maya's dad, not just the guy who cleans buildings, just me. And I haven't felt that way since before Sarah got sick. He reached up and wiped a tear from her cheek. You make me want to be better, to try harder, to believe that my life can be more than just surviving. That's worth fighting for. She leaned into his touch, closing her eyes. I don't deserve you. Stop saying that. You deserve someone who sees you, who supports you, who doesn't run when things get complicated. And that's what I'm trying to be. They sat in silence for a while, holding hands and watching the city lights flicker in the distance. Finally, Claire said, I'm scared about what comes next. The photographers aren't going away. The internet isn't going to forget. And at some point, Maya's going to find out that people are saying awful things about her father. How do we protect her from that? It was the question Ethan had been avoiding, the one that kept him up at night. We can't protect her from everything, but we can control how she hears about it. I'll talk to her, explain things in a way she can understand, and we'll make sure she knows that what other people say doesn't define who we are. She's 6 years old. That's a heavy concept. She's tougher than you think. Kids are resilient like that. He paused. But you're right that we need to be careful. No more photos of the three of us together in public spaces. No social media posts. We keep our private life private as much as possible. That's going to be hard. The media loves a good romance angle. They're going to keep digging. Let them dig. As long as we don't give them anything new to work with, eventually they'll move on to the next story. Claire nodded slowly, but Ethan could see she wasn't entirely convinced. The weight of everything was pressing down on her shoulders, and he wished he could take some of that burden away. Come here, he said, pulling her closer. She curled up against him, her head on his chest, and Ethan wrapped his arms around her. They stayed like that for a long time, not talking, just being together. At some point, Claire's breathing evened out and she fell asleep. Ethan stayed awake, his mind racing through everything they'd have to navigate in the coming weeks. The media attention would die down eventually. It always did. But the damage to Claire's reputation, to his job security, to Maya's innocence, some of that couldn't be undone. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from Jessica. Maya's asking about you. When will you be home? He carefully extracted his phone and typed back, Couple more hours. Everything okay? She's fine, just misses you, but There was a weird car parked outside the building earlier. Might have been a photographer. Be careful coming home. Ethan cursed under his breath. They'd found his address. Of course they had. Nothing was private anymore. He looked down at Claire, still sleeping against him, and felt a fierce protectiveness surge through him. She'd been through so much already. The addiction, the withdrawal, the board drama. She didn't deserve to have her personal life dissected by strangers. But neither did Maya. And if it came down to choosing between Claire and his daughter's safety and privacy, there was no choice at all. The thought made him sick. He loved Claire. He was pretty sure he'd loved her for weeks now, maybe longer, but Maya came first. She always would. He gently shifted Claire onto the couch and stood up, covering her with the blanket. She stirred but didn't wake. He left a note on the coffee table. Had to get home to Maya. Call me when you wake up. Love, E. and quietly let himself out. The photographers were gone when he exited the building, which was a small mercy. But Jessica had been right about the car outside his apartment. A sedan with tinted windows sat across the street, and Ethan could just make out the shape of someone in the driver's seat. He parked in his usual spot and walked into the building without acknowledging them. Inside, he found Jessica and Maya watching a movie on the couch. "Daddy!" Maya jumped up and ran to him. "You're home!" "Hey, baby girl." He picked her up and hugged her tight. "Sorry I was gone so long." "It's okay. Aunt Jess made popcorn and we watched Moana." "Again? You've seen that movie like 50 times. It's a good movie." Ethan laughed and set her down. "You're right. It's a great movie." He looked at Jessica over Maya's head and mouthed, "Thank you." She nodded and gathered her things. "I should get going. Call me if you need anything." After she left, Ethan made Maya dinner, chicken nuggets and mac and cheese, her favorite, and they ate together at the small kitchen table. "Daddy?" Maya said through a mouthful of mac and cheese. "Don't talk with your mouth full, baby." She swallowed. "Why was that car outside?" Ethan's heart sank. "What car?" "The one across the street, with the person inside. Aunt Jess said they were probably just waiting for someone, but they were there for a long time." He took a breath, trying to figure out how to explain this. "Remember how I told you that Claire's job is really important? And that sometimes people are interested in what important people do?" Maya nodded. "Well, some of those people want to know about Claire's friends too, so they might watch our building or take pictures. It's annoying, but they're not dangerous. They're just nosy." "Like when Emma's mom wanted to know if I liked boys yet?" Ethan smiled despite himself. "Kind of like that, yeah. Just nosier." "Are they going to go away?" "Eventually, once they realize we're boring and not doing anything interesting." Maya seemed satisfied with this answer and went back to her dinner. But Ethan noticed she kept glancing at the window, checking if the car was still there. That night, after Maya was asleep, Ethan sat at the kitchen table with his laptop and did something he'd been avoiding. He read the comments on the articles about him and Claire. Most of them were exactly what he'd expected. People questioning his motives, calling him a gold digger, suggesting Claire was going through a mental breakdown. But there were other comments too, ones that surprised him. "This is actually really sweet. She found someone who saw her as a person, not just a CEO. People are so judgmental. Who cares what he does for a living? Love is love." As someone who struggled with addiction, I respect both of them for being honest about it. Takes guts. The positive comments were outnumbered, but they were there. And they mattered somehow, in a way Ethan hadn't expected. His phone rang. "Claire." "Hey," he said. "You're awake." "I am, and I found your note. Did you really just write Love E?" Yeah. Is that okay?" "It's more than okay. I just wasn't sure if we were at that point yet." "I think we passed that point a while ago. I was just waiting for the right moment to say it." "Leaving a note while I'm unconscious on the couch is the right moment?" "Apparently so." He smiled. "For what it's worth, I mean it. I love you, Claire." There was a long pause. Then, quietly, "I love you too. I think I have for weeks, but I was too scared to say it." "We're both scared. That's okay. We can be scared together." She laughed, and it sounded lighter than before. "When did this become a thing we say? Together?" "I don't know, but I like it." They talked for another hour about nothing important. Claire told him about a dream she'd had where she could fly, but only 3 feet off the ground. Ethan told her about Maya's latest dinosaur facts, delivered with complete seriousness over breakfast. It was normal and comfortable, and for a little while they could pretend the media circus didn't exist. But the next morning brought a new challenge. Ethan got a call from Maya's school. "Mr. Brooks, this is Principal Martinez. I'm calling because we've had some unusual activity around the school this morning." Ethan's stomach dropped. "What kind of activity?" "A photographer. He was taking pictures near the entrance, and when our security guard approached him, he asked which classroom Maya was in. We escorted him off the property, but I wanted to make you aware." "Is Maya okay?" "She's fine. She doesn't know anything happened. But Mr. Brooks, if this continues, we may need to involve the police. We can't have strangers lurking around our students." "I understand. I'll handle it." After he hung up, Ethan immediately called Claire. "They're going after Maya now," he said without preamble. There was a photographer at her school. Oh my God, is she okay? She's fine, but Claire, this can't continue. I can't have strangers following my 6-year-old daughter. I know, and I'm so sorry. I'll hire security for both of you. Someone to make sure Maya gets to and from school safely. That's not the solution. The solution is making this stop. How? I can't control what the media does. No, but you can control what we do, how visible we are. Maybe we need to... He stopped, not wanting to say what he was thinking. What? Say it. Maybe we need to take a step back, for Maya's sake, just until things calm down. The silence on the other end was deafening. Finally, Claire said, You mean break up? No, not break up, just create some distance. Stop being seen together. Let the story die down. And how long would that take? Weeks? Months? Are we supposed to just put our relationship on hold indefinitely? I don't know. I'm trying to protect my daughter. I know you are, and I love that about you. But Ethan, if we run and hide every time things get hard, when do we get to actually be together? He didn't have an answer for that. They were both quiet for a long moment. I need to think, Ethan said finally. I need to figure out what's best for Maya. I understand. Take the time you need. But when he hung up, the weight in his chest felt heavier than ever. Over the next few days, Ethan operated on autopilot. He went to work on his new route, came home to Maya, tried to act normal. But normal felt impossible when there were photographers documenting his every move. When his daughter asked why people were taking pictures of them. When the woman he loved was somewhere across the city, feeling just as lost and scared as he was. On Friday evening, Jessica showed up unannounced. We need to talk, she said, pushing past him into the apartment. Nice to see you too. Don't. I've been watching you mope around for 4 days, and I'm done being patient. She sat down on the couch and patted the seat next to her. Sit. Ethan sat. Are you breaking up with Claire? Jessica asked. I don't know. Maybe. I'm trying to figure out what's best for Maya. And you think what's best for Maya is watching her father give up on something that makes him happy? I think what's best for Maya is not having photographers following her to school. So hire security, accept Claire's offer. Problem solved. It's not that simple. Why not? Ethan ran his hands through his hair, frustrated. Because I don't want Maya growing up in a fishbowl. I don't want her to think that love means constant scrutiny and judgment and having to hide who you are. She deserves better than that. You're right, she does deserve better. But you know what else she deserves? A father who's happy. A father who shows her that love is worth fighting for, even when it's hard. Jessica leaned forward. I watched you after Sarah died. You were going through the motions, taking care of Maya, but not really living. And then Claire came into your life and you started to come back. You laughed more. You seemed lighter. Maya noticed too. She told me her daddy seemed happier. That's not... Let me finish. The media attention sucks. The photographers suck. The judgment from strangers sucks. But giving up Claire? That's going to hurt worse and for longer. And Maya's going to see that hurt, and she's going to learn that when things get hard, you run. Is that what you want to teach her? Ethan stared at his sister, feeling like she'd just punched him in the chest. That's not fair. Life's not fair, but you get to choose how you respond to it. She stood up. Talk to Claire. Actually, talk to her, not just about logistics and safety, but about what you both want. And then decide. But don't make this decision out of fear. You've been doing that for 2 years, and where has it gotten you? After she left, Ethan sat on the couch for a long time, thinking about what she'd said. Jessica was right. He had been operating from fear. Fear of getting hurt, fear of putting Maya at risk, fear of letting someone in close enough to matter. But fear was a terrible compass. It pointed you toward safety, but never toward growth. He called Claire. Can we talk? He asked. In person? Of course. When? Tomorrow. Maya's with Jessica for the afternoon. We can meet somewhere quiet. There's nowhere quiet anymore. Everywhere I go, someone recognizes me. Then come here, to my apartment. The photographers already know where I live. What's one more visit? She hesitated. Are you sure? I'm sure. 2 o'clock? I'll be there. The next afternoon, Claire showed up at his door wearing jeans, a hoodie, and sunglasses. She looked like she was trying to go incognito, but her obvious discomfort with casual clothes gave her away. Hey, she said, pulling off the sunglasses. Hey, come in. His apartment looked even smaller with Claire in it. She'd only been here once before, and Ethan suddenly saw it through her eyes. The worn furniture, the crayon drawings on the fridge, the stack of bills on the counter. It was a different world from her penthouse. They sat on the couch, maintaining a careful distance. I've been thinking, Ethan started, about us, about what we're doing. Claire's face fell. This is where you tell me it's over. No. This is where I tell you I was wrong. She looked up surprised. I was operating from fear, he continued. Fear that loving you would hurt Maya, that the media attention would damage her, that we couldn't make this work. But my sister made me realize that I've been living in fear for 2 years, and it hasn't made anything better. It's just made me smaller. Ethan, let me finish. I love you, Claire. I love your strength and your vulnerability and the way you fight for what matters. I love that you saw me, really saw me, when everyone else just saw the guy who cleaned your house. And I don't want to give that up because some strangers with cameras decided our story was interesting. Claire's eyes filled with tears. So what are you saying? I'm saying I want to try, really try. Not hiding, not running, but actually building a life together. We'll hire security for Maya if we need to. We'll be strategic about when and where we're seen together, but we stop living like we're ashamed of this. The photographers will eventually get bored. Stories have a shelf life, and ours isn't that interesting once people realize we're just two regular people trying to make it work. We're not that regular. Maybe not, but the fundamentals are the same. We love each other. We want to build something together. The rest is just noise. Claire moved closer, taking his hands in hers. I don't want to put Maya at risk. If this continues to be a problem, then we'll handle it, together, like we've been handling everything else. She kissed him then, soft and careful, and Ethan felt something inside him settle. This was right. Complicated and messy and uncertain, but right. When they pulled apart, Claire said, I love you. I don't think I say that enough. You can say it as much as you want. I'll never get tired of hearing it. They spent the rest of the afternoon making plans. Claire would hire a security consultant to assess risks and recommend protective measures for Maya. They would coordinate their schedules to spend time together, but be strategic about public appearances. And they would talk, really talk, about expectations, boundaries, and what they both needed from this relationship. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest, and that mattered more. Over the following weeks, the media attention gradually began to fade. A celebrity divorce scandal captured the tabloids' attention, and Claire and Ethan's story moved from front-page news to occasional mentions in business profiles. The photographers stopped camping outside their buildings. The comment sections moved on to newer, shinier targets. Claire's company continued to thrive. The funding from Redwood Capital allowed them to expand into new markets, and her honesty about her struggles with addiction actually strengthened her reputation in unexpected ways. She started getting speaking invitations to talk about leadership, vulnerability, and recovery. Richard eventually resigned from the board after his coup attempt failed, and Margaret Wu took over as chairwoman. Ethan stayed at his cleaning job, working the new route Donna had assigned him. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady work that let him be there for Maya. He started looking into online teaching programs, thinking about finally finishing that degree he'd abandoned years ago. It would take time, years probably, but time was something he had now, and Maya adjusted better than either of them had expected. She liked Claire, who showed up for things that mattered. Maya's school play, where she was still the tallest tree, her birthday party at the park, random weeknight dinners when Claire could escape the office early. Maya never called Claire Mom, and nobody expected her to. But she started referring to Daddy and Claire as a unit, which felt like acceptance. 3 months after the article came out, Claire invited Ethan and Maya to dinner at her penthouse. It was the first time Maya had been there since all the media chaos, and she was fascinated by the tall windows and the view of the city. It's so high up, she said, pressing her nose against the glass. It is, Claire agreed. Sometimes I forget how high until someone reminds me. They ordered Chinese food and ate, sitting on the living room floor because Maya insisted it was more fun that way. After dinner, while Maya was distracted by a documentary about velociraptors, Claire pulled out a small box. I got you something, she said to Ethan. You didn't have to do that. I know, but I wanted to. She handed him the box. Inside was a simple silver watch, not expensive or flashy, but elegant. On the back was an engraving, "For showing up, always, love, C." Ethan felt his throat tighten. Claire, you're always the one taking care of everyone else. I wanted you to have something that reminded you that someone's taking care of you too. He pulled her close and kissed her, not caring that Maya might see. When they pulled apart, Maya was watching them with a knowing smile. "Are you guys going to get married?" she asked. Ethan and Claire both laughed, caught off guard. "Maybe someday," Claire said. "Is that okay with you?" Maya thought about it seriously. "Yeah, but I get to be a bridesmaid." "Deal." That night, after Maya fell asleep on Claire's couch, apparently the combination of Chinese food and dinosaur documentaries was exhausting. Ethan and Claire sat by the windows, watching the city lights. "I've been thinking about something," Claire said. "Yeah? About what success actually means. I spent years thinking it was about the company, the funding, the board's approval, building something that would prove I was worth taking seriously." She turned to look at him. "But this, right here, right now, this feels more like success than anything I've ever built in a boardroom. A sleeping kid and cold Chinese food leftovers? A family. People who see me, who love me anyway. A life that's more than just work and achievement." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I think I was chasing the wrong things for a long time. We all do that. Chase the things we think will make us happy instead of the things that actually do." "When did you figure it out?" "I'm still figuring it out. But being with you helps. Makes me think about what I want my life to look like, not just what I'm trying to survive." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Claire said, "I'm 4 months smoke-free tomorrow." "That's amazing. How do you feel?" "Proud, scared, grateful, all of it at once." She squeezed his hand. "I couldn't have done it without you." "Yes, you could have. You're stronger than you think." "We're stronger together, though." "Yeah, we are." 6 months later, on a Saturday morning in early spring, Ethan stood in the kitchen of Claire's penthouse making pancakes while Maya set the table. Claire was still asleep, a rare luxury for her, and they were planning to surprise her with breakfast in bed. "How many pancakes does Claire eat?" Maya whispered, as if talking too loud might wake her. "Probably 2, but make it 3 in case she's extra hungry." They worked together in companionable silence, Maya carefully arranging strawberries on the plate, while Ethan flipped the last pancake. When everything was ready, they carried the tray down the hallway to Claire's bedroom. She was awake when they entered, sitting up in bed with her laptop open. "You're supposed to be sleeping," Maya said, accusatory. "I was, but then I woke up and smelled pancakes." Claire closed her laptop and smiled. "Is this for me?" "Daddy made them. I did the strawberries." "They're beautiful. Thank you both." Ethan set the tray on her lap and climbed into bed beside her while Maya settled on the other side. They ate breakfast together, maple syrup dripping onto the white sheets, and Claire didn't even flinch. She'd relaxed so much in the past months, let go of the need for everything to be perfect and controlled. After breakfast, Maya asked if she could watch cartoons, and Ethan set her up in the living room with the remote. When he came back to the bedroom, Claire was staring at something on her laptop with a strange expression. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Nothing's wrong. I got an email from my brother." Ethan sat down on the edge of the bed. "What did he say?" "He saw the article, the one from 6 months ago, and he said," her voice caught, "he said he was proud of me for being honest about my struggles, and he apologized for the fight we had, asked if we could talk." "That's good, right?" "It's terrifying. We haven't spoken in 5 years. I don't even know if we can have a relationship anymore." "Do you want to?" Claire thought about it. "Yeah, I think I do. He's the only family I have left, and I'm tired of cutting people out because it's easier than risking getting hurt." "Then talk to him. See what happens. Worst case, you tried. And best case? Best case, you get your brother back." She reached for Ethan's hand. "How do you always know what to say?" "I don't. I just say what I'm thinking and hope it helps." 2 weeks later, Claire met her brother for coffee. Ethan offered to come with her for moral support, but she said this was something she needed to do alone. She came back to the penthouse 3 hours later, eyes red from crying, but smiling. "How'd it go?" Ethan asked. "It was hard. We had a lot to talk about. Years of resentment and misunderstanding, but we're going to try. He wants to meet you and Maya. We'd like that. That summer, they took Maya to the beach. It was the first real vacation any of them had taken in years, and they rented a small cottage far enough from the city that nobody recognized them. For a week, they were just three people building sandcastles and collecting shells and eating ice cream that dripped down their chins. On the last evening, after Maya was asleep, Ethan and Claire walked along the beach in the twilight. The ocean was calm, waves lapping gently at the shore. "I've been thinking about moving," Claire said. Ethan stopped walking. "Moving where?" "Not far, just out of the penthouse, into something more practical, more like a home." "You love that penthouse." "I loved what it represented. Success, independence, making it on my own. But it's too big for one person, and if—" She paused. "If we're going to keep doing this, keep building this life together, I want a space that actually works for all three of us. Are you asking me to move in with you?" "Eventually, maybe. Not right away. But I want the option, and the penthouse doesn't have that option. It's mine, from my old life. I want something that can be ours." Ethan pulled her close. "Okay? Just like that? Okay?" "Yeah. If you want to move, we'll help you find a place. Something with room for Maya to have sleepovers. Maybe a backyard where she can dig for dinosaur bones." Claire laughed. "A backyard in the city? That's going to cost a fortune." "Then we'll find something outside the city. You can commute." "I've never commuted. I've always lived downtown." "Then it'll be an adventure." They walked back to the cottage hand in hand, and Ethan thought about how far they'd both come. Claire was 7 months smoke-free, sleeping better, laughing more easily. Her company was thriving, and she'd learned to delegate instead of trying to control everything. She'd even hired a chief operating officer to handle the day-to-day operations so she could focus on strategy and vision. And Ethan had started his online teaching program, taking classes in the early mornings before Maya woke up. It would take 3 years to finish his degree, but he'd finally stopped thinking of it as a dream deferred and started thinking of it as a goal in progress. Maya was doing well too. She'd made new friends at school, her grades were good, and the therapy sessions they'd started after all the media attention had helped her process the sudden changes in her life. She still talked about her mother sometimes, but the grief had softened into something gentler, memories cherished instead of losses mourned. A year after the article came out, Claire announced she was stepping back from day-to-day operations at her company to focus on advocacy work around addiction and recovery. She'd been speaking at conferences and events for months, and the response had been overwhelming. People wanted to hear her story, wanted to know how she'd overcome something so personal while maintaining a career that demanded so much. "I think this might be my real calling," she told Ethan one night. "Not building companies, but helping people who are going through what I went through." "You can do both." "Maybe, but I don't want to do both. I want to focus on what matters most, and right now that's this: helping people see that asking for help isn't weakness, that recovery is possible, that you don't have to be perfect to be worthy of love and success." Ethan kissed her forehead. "I'm proud of you." "Yeah? Yeah, you're changing lives, including mine." They got engaged on a random Tuesday in October. No grand gesture, no elaborate plan. They were washing dishes after dinner, Ethan washing, Claire drying, when she suddenly said, "We should get married." Ethan nearly dropped the plate he was holding. "What?" "We should get married. I mean, we're basically already living together half the time. Maya calls this her second home. We've survived media scandals and board coups and addiction recovery. If we can make it through all that, we can make it through anything." "Is this a proposal?" "I think it is. Unless you're going to say no, in which case it's just a random observation." Ethan dried his hands on the dish towel and turned to face her. "Claire Donovan, are you asking me to marry you?" "I am." "What do you say?" "I say yes. Obviously, yes." They got married 6 months later in a small ceremony at the beach cottage where they'd spent that first vacation. Just family and close friends, Jessica, Claire's brother, Margaret from the board, Ethan's supervisor Donna, who'd become an unlikely ally, and Maya, who wore a purple dress and served as both bridesmaid and flower girl. The ceremony was simple. No photographers, no media coverage, just two people making promises to each other while the ocean whispered in the background. When the officiant said they could kiss, Maya made gagging noises that made everyone laugh. At the reception, really just a barbecue on the beach, Ethan's former colleague from the cleaning company came up to him. "Never thought I'd see you marry a CEO," the guy said. "Never thought I'd marry anyone again," Ethan admitted. "But here we are. You two seem happy." "We are. It's not perfect, but it's real. And that's better than perfect." Later that evening, as the sun set over the ocean, Claire pulled Ethan aside. "Can I tell you something?" she asked. "Always." "When I was smoking, I used to think about dying. Not in a suicidal way, just acceptance. Like I'd made my choice, and this was the consequence. I'd probably get cancer like your wife, and I'd die. And that would be that." She looked out at the water. "But then you showed up, and you didn't lecture me or judge me. You just saw me. And suddenly I wanted to live. Really live. Not just exist. I wanted to see what came next." Ethan's throat was tight. "I'm glad you stayed." "Me too." She turned to face him. "I know this wasn't easy. The media circus, the board drama, all of it. Thank you for not giving up on us. Thank you for letting me in, for trusting me with your mess. It's our mess now." "Yeah, it is." They stood there as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Maya ran up to them, sand coating her legs, and squeezed between them. "Can we live here forever?" she asked. "We can visit whenever you want," Claire said. "But we have to go home eventually. You have school, I have work, and Daddy has his classes. But we'll come back." "We'll come back," Ethan promised. And they did. Every summer they returned to that beach cottage, watched Maya grow from a 6-year-old who believed in dinosaurs to a teenager who rolled her eyes at their affection but secretly loved their annual tradition. Claire's advocacy work expanded nationally, and she published a book about addiction and recovery that became a bestseller. Ethan finished his teaching degree and got a job at Maya's school, teaching English to 8th graders who thought they were too cool to care about literature until he showed them otherwise. They weren't perfect. They still fought sometimes, about money, about Maya's screen time, about whose turn it was to do the grocery shopping. Claire still had moments where the cravings hit hard, where she had to talk herself through not smoking. Ethan still carried guilt about Sarah, still wondered sometimes if he'd done enough to save her. But they were happy. Not in the fairy tale sense where everything was easy and nothing hurt, but in the real sense where happiness was something you built day by day, choice by choice, commitment by commitment. Years later, at Maya's high school graduation, Ethan sat between Claire and Jessica, watching his daughter walk across the stage. She'd grown into a confident, kind young woman who wanted to study paleontology in college. She still drew pictures of dinosaurs, though they were more anatomically accurate now. "You did good," Claire whispered to him. "We did good," he corrected. And that was the truth. Not that everything had worked out perfectly, because it hadn't. But they'd shown up for each other consistently and honestly. They'd chosen love over fear, vulnerability over self-protection, connection over isolation. In the end, that's all anyone could do. Show up, be present, love the people in front of you as fiercely and imperfectly as you could manage. Hope that it was enough. And for Ethan Brooks and Claire Donovan, it was more than enough. It was everything.